we'd be together, you, me, forever. Now there's nothing left to lose. And though I understand it's hard sometimes to make up your mind in these trying times, yeah, I just can't accept you leaving me when I'm overseas with the heart so heavy. Think that I deserve the truth for once, not a guilty tone, 'cause you're not alone, yeah. You said you wanna come home, but I know you don't. So this time I won't hear it on the phone. If you got something to say to me, then say it to my face. What it's all about, why you're bailing out. Think you owe me an apology. Just say it to my face. You're sorry. You're so sorry. You're so sorry. You're so sorry. Say it to my face. You're sorry.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show.
Today is Wednesday, January 26, 2022. Thank you so much for joining us at the Benjamin Dixon Morning Show. It is Solidarity Wednesdays, and we'll be joined momentarily by Nomiki Konst of the Nomiki Show. And as always, we'll be joined by Dr. Carl Mack discussing Black history, what happened today in Black history. So much to go. I want to start this morning just a little bit differently while we get ready for Solidarity Wednesdays. I want to start with Joe Rogan and Jordan Peterson. Now, those may be two names that you don't know immediately because you may not be as mired into the inside politics the way I am. Joe Rogan is a very popular podcaster with Spotify. I think he had a contract of about $150 million to go on Spotify and to just, sit there and talk. Do what I do, basically. So, good on him for being able to just sit down and talk and make $150 million a year. The problem is that he has been on the leading lines of the misinformation in this pandemic, but he's also on the leading lines of this pseudo anti-wokeness movement that fancies all white people in this country, particularly white conservative men. Let's be clear. Going forward through the rest of this episode, when I say white people, I'm really talking about wealthy white conservative men and all of the ancillary people who, love them and support them. But at the core of it, what Joe Rogan and this entire movement. Now, if you need to connect this to something bigger, you have to understand that the way conservatism gets away with what it gets away with in this country is 100% by the fact that they have a media apparatus that can take people with the skill set of a sloth and make them famous and rich and put them up there to say all of the asinine and idiotic things that they wouldn't say themselves, they being the oligarchs. There's plenty of rich people in this country who know that these idiots on Fox News are complete and total morons. They know that they're lying. They know that they are engaging in the highest level of propaganda. Joe Rogan is just an extension of that. Joe Rogan is more of the bro portion of that conservative movement. Here's what I want to play. I have 2 clips of him. The first clip is really talking about Michael Eric Dyson. Michael Eric Dyson is, for those of you who don't know, I hope I don't have to explain every single character, but Michael Eric Dyson is a scholar, an intellectual, a Black intellectual who has written many books and been on the front line of many issues for as long as I can remember. They have a problem with this man. Jordan Peterson and Joe Rogan have a problem with Michael Eric Dyson in general, but more specifically in the context of the conversation about race in this country. I think I gave you enough information to play the clip. Let's take a listen to Joe Rogan and Jordan Peterson as they attack Michael Eric Dyson, a Black man, as apparently not being Black enough because, well, they had nothing else to say about this intellectual other than he isn't Black enough. Let's take a look in.
Hard to sort out. The climate change one is a weird one. So
that's because there's no such thing as climate, right? Climate and everything are the same word. And that's what bothers me about the climate change types. It's like, this is something that bothers me about it technically. It's like, well, climate is about everything. So, okay. But your models aren't based on everything. Your models are based on warming. A set number of variables.
Yeah.
So that means you've reduced the variables, which are everything, to that set. Well, how did you decide which set of variables to include in the equation if it's about everything? And that's not just a criticism. That's like, if it's about everything, your models aren't right. Because your models do not and cannot model everything.
What do you mean by everything? When you say, depending on who you ask, either you're a voice of reason and rationality and personal responsibility, or you're a voice of intolerance and bigotry and anger and hateful.
Sexual oppression.
What did Michael
prejudice,
Eric Dyson call you? A angry white man?
And a mean, angry white man. Yeah.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
You're not mean at all.
Yeah.
That's what's dumb about that statement. You're not mean at all.
I am white. Actually, that's a lie, too. I'm kind of tan. And he was actually not Black.
If you're tan,
he was sort of brown.
Am I? Because I'm darker than you.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. But neither of us are white.
Well, I'm Italian.
And
mostly.
He was brown, not Black.
Well, isn't that weird?
Yeah, it's really weird.
The black and white thing is so strange because the shades are so...
Tan and brown.
There's such a spectrum of shades of people. Unless you're talking to someone who is like 100% African from the darkest place where they're not wearing any clothes all day and they've developed all that melanin to protect themselves from the sun. Even the term Black is weird. And when you use it for people that are literally my color, it becomes very strange.
Yeah. This is true. So you were asking,
white people, I need you to send something better than those 2 guys to the national conversation. The national discourse is not represented in its totality when you guys send Neanderthals dressed in their Monopoly suits to sit there and prevaricate or pontificate rather about the colorism. I'm going to get into that story a little bit later. I'm going to wait till Dr. Mack and Rebecca Zor and Georgia Ford get here. We're going to tackle that a little bit more. In a minute, we'll be joined by Nomiki Konst, and we're going to be discussing allyship, because in the forefront of this conversation really is, how do we work together with people who otherwise, this system, Fox News, is a perfect machine to make sure that poor white people and working class white people vote against their best interest. It's literally, I think that is in the secret job description at Fox News, for you to get people, white people, poor white people specifically, to vote against their own best interest. This is all a part of one massive machine. And in order for us to stop things like another January 6th from occurring, in order for us to stop things for like another Donald Trump, not even Donald Trump himself, but the next Donald Trump from becoming president of the United States, we must absolutely form a team of people who have enough influence and power to fight back against these machines. And here's what I'm saying. While you personally may not have ever heard of Jordan Peterson, and you may never ever seen this episode or this clip of what we're talking about, millions of people watch and listen to this every single day. Okay? Millions, to the tune of Joe Rogan having a $150 million contract with Spotify. If you have Spotify, you just sponsored the content that we just listened to. Now, that said, I want to bring in my sister from another Mr. Nomiki Constant of the Nomiki Show. Nomiki, I know it's got a, I know you're not a fan of either of those two guys. So I hate to have you here on behalf of the white delegation in the middle of this conversation, but we got to do. I mean, these guys, they're not working with a full bag of integrity or intelligence.
Yes. I mean, I remember about a year and a half ago, it's hard in pandemic timeline, of course, a year and a half ago, I remember folks were saying, Rogan's really great. And of course, he endorsed Bernie Sanders, but he started to get a little slippery about a year and a half ago in a more aggressive way. And I paused and I said, we as a movement, and I love Bernie in so many ways, but, campaigns are very fast. And I'm not expecting that Bernie Sanders was watching Joe Rogan or listening to Joe Rogan. I just expect he listened to his advisors, which is what, most presidential candidates should do, because they shouldn't be sitting there watching his 3-hour episodes. But what was important was he said, he's going to help Rogan is going to help bring in folks that are disaffected. Well, I believe that Joe Rogan was really trying to pull in progressive Bernie folks who watch and listen to, whatever Bernie says into his audience, because, you can't have it both ways. You can't have Bernie Sanders and say you're a progressive and you believe in Medicare for all, and then have Jordan Peterson on, and Alex Jones is a regular on his show. And I'm so happy that Neil Young used his power, his labor, essentially, if we're going to really break it down, as leverage, because Neil Young is obviously an extraordinarily famous and well listened to musician over the last, 5 decades, 6 decades. And comparing that to a $150 contract with Joe Rogan, is it really worth it? And my guess is probably other musicians are going to come in and say the same thing, because it's just not worth it at the end of the day.
You're talking about the legendary Neil Young, who is pulling his music from Spotify because Joe Rogan has this massively lucrative $150 million contract with Spotify. And it's not just the first portion of the clip we played, Nomiki, was the climate portion, right? Which I don't want to dismiss that portion, because it's just as important when you considered, it's spring here in the winter in the South. My thing is that there's so much money behind misinformation in this country. It's almost as if people like yourself or myself or anyone, like look at organizers, look at the people who actually go out here and do all the best work at the bottom of the financial structure here, while morons and propagandists like Joe Rogan literally are at the top of propaganda mountain here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I'm glad that we're finally in a space where folks are starting to see it because of the pandemic. It's almost like they overplayed their hands. Or maybe they didn't. They knew that these are the folks that they were able to collect along the way of spewing misinformation, because this is obviously not the first piece of misinformation he's spread. He's been doing this for many years.
That's right.
Some people have checked it. I mean, he's been aggressively anti-trans. He's used cancel culture in a way to sow a divide. He seems like he's some sort of like musclehead. I think a lot of these folks are like, oh, they're so dumb, frankly. Sometimes they say things and you're like, they're just dumb. But they're not dumb. I actually think they're very sophisticated and they're trying to appeal to folks, everyday folks. They want to relate. They don't want to be wonky. They don't want to have, books all around them. They don't want to be, professorial, although Jordan Peterson does have that aspect to himself. They want to be relatable. And so they use that and they prey on insecurities just the way Donald Trump did. Just the way Donald Trump did, and so many leaders in the past.
That's right.
So he says, it's cancel culture that's making you feel insecure in your life. Not that it's really about, I don't know, the economic conditions. And then he has Elon Musk and he says, this guy is a national treasure. Elon Musk is a national treasure. It's like, how can...
To be fair to the morning show, I found out yesterday that one of my co-hosts on the morning show actually likes Elon Musk, even though I feel like Elon Musk is Lex Luthor with hair plugs. But I digress. But your point remains. I just
we'll have to have a little conversation.
I wanted to put that on Brother Matt because he's coming in a minute. And but everything else that you're saying, Nomiki, is so right. I actually want to play one more clip, and this is a short 30-second clip of Kid Rock's new song. And I think this kind of embodies what you're saying. This is a new song that was released by Kid Rock yesterday. Side note, the comments on YouTube are turned off. That lets you know he's not proud of his work because the comments are turned off. Here's a song of him attacking Joe Biden, Anthony Fauci, attacking the COVID response, and I don't even know how to describe it, but this is what all the conservatives are rallying behind this morning. It's trending #1 on Twitter. Here's a little clip of Kid Rock singing something. Here we go. We the People is the name of the song. Go ahead.
Wear your mask, take your pills. Now a whole generation's mentally ill. Man, Fauci. But COVID's near, it's coming to town. We gotta act quick, shut our borders down. Joe Biden does, the media embraces. Big Doc does it and they call him racist. We the people. Let's go, Brandon. We the people.
That's it. That's enough of that. That's enough. Cut that up. It's
Oh, I think I need to clean out my ears now.
No, Mickey. No, Mickey, back on the screen. I'm so sorry. I was like, because here's the thing. How do you say in one sentence, everybody knows "Let's go, Brandon"? By now, if you don't know "Let's go, Brandon," it is like the conservative way of being like, I want to cuss somebody out, but I don't want to get in trouble. So I'm going to say some fake words like "Let's go, Brandon." But earlier in that same clip, he said F Anthony Fauci. Like, you already said it, brother. So why are you now going to say, instead of saying F Joe Biden, you're going to say "Let's go, Brandon"? No, Mickey, what is wrong with some of these white folks on the conservative side over there?
It's supremacy. I mean, in real talk here. Obviously, this is aggressive and I have so many thoughts. Sorry, I have to get it collected because there's just a lot that's coming out. So first off, I saw on Twitter yesterday that in Detroit, where Kid Rock grew up, he actually grew up. He puts off this working class kind of. I'm an everyday guy. He actually grew up really wealthy. Shocker. Which leads to my next point, that they're tapping into white supremacy, which is not a shocker, but the spirit of white supremacy, the fact, you're making me wear a mask. The government is making me do things, making me pay taxes, making me take a vaccine. Why isn't the pandemic over? Whether you're Barry Weiss, angry that the pandemic's not over, or Bill Maher, done with it, or you're Kid Rock, who's trying to find a target for his inconvenience. We all know, working people in this country know, this isn't inconvenient. You go anywhere else in the world, which I have done in the last year. I went to Mexico. Everyone's wearing a mask. Everyone on the street. There's no question. You go to Europe. Everyone's wearing masks. There's no question about whether or not you should wear a mask, or there's always a little anti-vax community somewhere. But it is such a uniquely American libertarian / white supremacist way of thinking that is not just about taxes. It's about building a movement that resents government for telling them what to do and making their lives inconvenient because they're not used to being told what to do because they get away with whatever they want.
They are. And that is the essence of the whole thing. I could use that framing. Actually, that is That's actually a great frame to understand it, because that is the nature of the conversation with Joe Rogan and Jordan Peterson that we just played. That is the nature of why they brought up Michael Eric Dyson. I don't know if you recall that clip from about 2 years ago at the debate when Michael Eric Dyson called Jordan Peterson a mean, bitter, angry white man. That was the nature of that situation, right? That is the framing. They are so used to getting away with anything and everything that if they have to consider your pronouns, if they have to go to your Twitter page and look up your pronouns, they think that they are oppressed.
Yes, exactly. It's like, oh, you're so tough. This is oppression to you. Wait till you see what most Americans are dealing with.
That's right.
I mean,
that's right. I would venture to say that there's not a white conservative rich man who can live a year in the life of the people that they think that they're better than, and that they want to lecture about working harder. I guarantee you, Elon Musk could not live a year in a working class person's life. That said, I want to talk about solidarity, because behind all this is the need for us to transcend our normal way of organizing underneath the big tent. And this is what I mean. I don't mean the Democratic Party big tent. I mean all of the alliances that are necessary. Everybody has their own individual issue or a handful of issues. No one group of people represent the totality of all the political issues that have to be addressed in this country. Therefore, in order for some of us to win, we've got to unify with folks that don't look like us. They don't worship like us. They may not, whatever. We're going to be different. Talk to us about solidarity across those different silos.
I mean, intersectionality is a concept that we spew out a lot, but I don't think a lot of people really dig deep and understand. Intersectionality, it brings different folks together from different backgrounds and different races and ethnicities, but with that common thread of it's a class struggle. Ultimately, we know that, the group of white supremacists, I'm just say it straight up, the white supremacists that are controlling this country are controlling it through our economy mainly. And when they can't control it through the economy, they use their economic means to control it through government and create all these wars, these culture wars to divide everybody, so that, of course, your energy is not focused on the big fights, but focused on petty little things between you, or made up things like the CRT fight, or, I'm sure we could find a million things in the progressive movement that we can fight. Or sometimes we get triggered by certain things that are legitimate, but may not be the big priority. And it's to drain our energy away from the big, big, big fights. I think what's different right now, and it's reassuring to see this, is that because the conditions are so stark for so many people, and they've had it, when we couldn't pass an economic package that really relieves what people are facing right now, getting food on the table, being able to pay your rent, student loans, et cetera, $15 minimum wage. Because we weren't able to pass something so basic as that, I think you're seeing workers across this country just fed up and they're quitting. And the inflation, everyone's talking, Larry Summers has his whole theory on inflation. But when you talk to Professor Richard Wolff, also an economist, or other economists that are progressive, they say, no, the inflation, a lot of it has to do with, employers jacking up their prices, whether it's shipping employers who have a monopoly and very little government oversight, or employers at, your local coffee shop who are jacking up their prices. And employees are seeing that, saying, wait, you're blaming it on us, that you have to pay us, and that's why the prices are going up? We quit. And that, I think, is the conditions have created a scenario where solidarity is the only option. So I look at solidarity in these moments and juxtapose it with Joe Rogan making comments like he has in the past, or Elon Musk, or, of course, Jeff Bezos. I think the grand public is starting to get, these guys are full of what, and we have to work together. There's no way we can rely on government to save us from this. We have to use whatever power we have to fight back.
Absolutely. I want to bring in Dr. Carl Mack into the conversation, because you said something there that I want to give him to chime in on before we get done in this first segment. You said they have us distracted from the real fights, which is them. the richest, the oligarchs, the people at the top. Dr. Mack, how is it that, first of all, good morning to you, and so glad to have you as always. It's something about conspiracies, and I'm thinking particularly about Robert Kennedy Jr., because I saw an article this morning saying that now his own wife is opposed to his conspiracy theories. What is it about conspiracy theories that get so many people to look at everything else except the obvious, which are the rich and powerful who literally control all the levers of power and are telling us to go back to school and go back to work in the middle of a pandemic?
Good morning to the both of you, Noquim and Ben. Good morning. Whenever you want to control a body, you have to control the mind. If I can control what you think, if I can keep you under a veil of ignorance, it is easy for me to control you. Now, when you're talking about all these issues, my love for history, one of the reasons I love history so much is because it helps you to think critically. And so when you begin to deny, all the things that you all are talking about, you're talking about things that happened, quote unquote, yesterday. But when you have an understanding of yesterday, you got a much clearer understanding about what's being told to you today and what the ramifications or implications of that are going to be. So, I just equated it to the fact that as long as we can stay into a society where people are not thinking critically, you can be led by the nose by any of these so-called influencers.
That's it. That's absolutely right. Nomiki, I was trying to text you. I was trying to hit you in the DMs to ask you, is your birthday public knowledge? If your birthday's public knowledge, I wanted to give you a treat this morning.
Thank you.
Connected to your birthday. Now, you don't have to say it on air because mine's not, mine is public knowledge. What is your birthday, if you don't mind me asking?
It's tomorrow, January 27th.
How about that? You can't get any better than that. Hey, Google, what happened tomorrow in Black history?
On January 27, 1919, Paul Revere Williams was enrolled at the University of Southern California in architectural engineering. In 1923, he became the first Black member of the American Institute of Architects. Overcoming racial prejudice, some of his most noted works are the Palm Springs Tennis Club, the world-famous Beverly Wilshire Hotel, Angelus Funeral Home, St. Jude Children's Hospital in Memphis, Tennessee, and the Tudor Mansion in Pasadena, California, which was used in the TV series Batman. Adapted from Black Heritage Day 4 calendar by author, lecturer, and civil rights activist Dr. Karl Mack.
Dr. Karl Mack.
That's fascinating. I've been to some of those places.
Really?
I know. Yeah.
And let me tell you, there's something about... Go ahead, Brother Mack. No, you got it. Go ahead.
There was a famed African-American architect who designed those and so many more. I mean, just an incredible talent, Paul Revere Williams.
What I love about this calendar, BlackHeritageDays.com, is that every time I hear a date that's relevant to my life, is somehow connected to me. It's the strangest thing, Brother Mack, but it reminds me of what you say and what Malcolm X said, is that our job is to find ourselves in history. And that's why we do this, Nomiki. I wanted you to hear what happened in Black history on your birthday.
Thank you for that.
So Ben, I will tell you, I was surprised when you framed the question, what happened tomorrow in Black history, and it answered. I was actually surprised that it did. But anyway, very pleased.
Not a problem. Actually, we tested it last night with my producer. Because I wasn't sure either. When he asked it. And I'm like, it doesn't work like that, does it? And lo and behold, it does. That said, Dwayne, I want you to run what happened today in Black history, because this is what we're doing here. We're putting a focus and a light on Black history because, well, the rest of America is so terrified of critical race theory. We might as well give them some real history. And I want you to take a look at what happened today.
Ben, before we go there, I got to thinking back again to this governor of Virginia. And now I'm trying to put pressure on teachers about what they teach. And so I have to ask both you and Noquim. I want to ask
Nomiki. It's all right.
Nomiki, I'm sorry.
I'm used to Tori.
No, I'm so sorry.
It took me 3
I
years.
got it now. So let's say 200 years from now. In 200 years, will we still be teaching about what happened at Pearl Harbor? Will we still be teaching about 9/11? 200 years from now.
Yeah.
So what they're saying to us is that based on what happened to us as a people, I'm talking about where they invoked, and excuse my Latin, but they imposed the doctrine, partus sequitur ventrum, which says the right of the womb. So in this case, when he wants to quote King and say, yes, we should be looking forward to that day when children would not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. So are you telling me that somehow I should not know that the state of Virginia, the Commonwealth of Virginia, passed a law that says in order for me to ensure that an enslaved woman cannot sue for her freedom because as the slave owner, I impregnated her. And now she's trying to sue for her freedom and that of her child, which is my child. In order to prevent that lawsuit, I'm going to invoke this law. So are you telling me that I should not teach what happened? And that if I teach that, somehow I'm teaching hate.
That's right. That's right. Before we get to that, Nomiki, because we're coming up at the end of the half hour. First of all, thank you so much for joining us for Solidarity Wednesdays. As always, I will see you later on today in Solidarity. Please tell everyone how they can get up with you and support your show.
Well, thanks for having me. I love these conversations. They're like I said, it's like waking up with a intention, and I really love this. So we do Solidarity Wednesdays also on our show on YouTube. It's at YouTube, the Nomiki Show. If you just put that in, NOMIKI, and we're on all the podcast platforms as well. And so we'll see you at 8 p.m. Eastern Wednesday on our channel on YouTube.
All right. That's what it is.
I will forever remember the pronunciation of your name. And when you have time, you got to tell us how in the world did your mom and daddy say, I like Nomiki.
It's very good. Firstborn Greek child. You're named after the father's mother. So it's Nomiki. Yeah.
Oh, Nomiki. See?
Nice. Well, now we got it. Now I think I got it because I really be struggling. I know you just be allowing me to mess it up. Sometimes I hit it, sometimes I mess it up.
I got it. Now.
Nomi is fine.
I got it, Nomiki.
When I was in kindergarten, my dad had a shirt printed out for me, like 5 of them, and I wore it every single day of my first week of kindergarten. And it was like how to pronounce my name for my teachers, obviously, not for the students. So,
well, that said, let's get ready to get out of here. I want to close with Today in Black History. We have the full video of it. Dwayne, run us what happened today in Black History. And when we come back, we'll be back with Georgia Fort on the clock and the rest of the show, the rest of the Benjamin Dixon Morning Show.
On January 26, 1943, Brigadier General Cherian Grace Cadoria was born in Louisiana. Cadoria served in the military for 29 years, retiring as the highest-ranked black woman in the armed forces. She was the first black woman director of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and the first woman to command an all-male battalion. Cadoria's numerous decorations include 3 Bronze Stars, the Legion of Merit, and the Army Commendation Medal. Adapted from Black Heritage Day for calendar by author, lecturer, and civil rights activist Dr. Karl Mack.
I could be a hater like you.
Good morning, everybody. I had to press the button to make music go. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Morning Show. Shout out Nomiki in the room, y'all. Good morning, Nomiki. Good morning, Brother Mac. Good morning, Brother Ben. Good morning, Dwayne and David in the background. Good morning, y'all.
Ain't nobody take me here and now. It's my time to run it out. It's my time to ride it. I'm young, I'm free. Ain't nobody take me here and now. It's my time to run it out.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning again.
It's my time to ride
Shelby Hall, good morning. Adam Ward, good morning. Laura Estrada, good morning to you. Praise God.
Cheers to all the haters, cause you proved to me.
Barbara Susan, good morning, y'all. Brother Latif, good morning.
Whatever from behind me.
Megan Cox, what's going on? Juanita, KFC,
I know. I'm
Good morning, everybody. Make sure that you grab your coffee. Whatever it is you get your morning started, y'all. We got more coming up next on the clock. It's ready to start momentarily, y'all. Y'all make sure y'all stay tuned. Good morning, Kareem. The big piece. What's going on? Hey, Miss Street the Dragon. Ooh, Street the Dragon. I saw this video yesterday that reminded me so much of you, and I hope that we can get it so I can share some. My God. Iris Jones, good morning. Amber Layla, Brother Chuck Diesel, Mark S, Tiger Katsune, Tiger, Brother Dragon, what's going on? Amalou, good morning. Brittany Woods, BT, good morning, Mama Gwen. Lady Lou, good morning. Y'all make sure y'all stay tuned, man. We got more coming up next. All right, y'all stay tuned.
It's my time to run it out.
That was Tiger's shout out. Tiger Katsune. You know. Rachel Bannon, good morning to you.
If you're on the bus, say yeah. If you're on the train, say yeah.
Tiger gets it.
If you gotta walk, say yeah. Everybody's going somewhere. Young or old, I really don't care. Life has never really been fair. So put your fist up in the air. Say yeah. I'm young, I'm free.
Hollywood, good morning to you.
Nobody take me here and now. It's my time to run it out. It's my time. It's my time to ride it. I'm young, I'm free.
All right, y'all. Y'all know what time it is.
Nobody take me here and
It's time for Mo to play one more song.
It's my time to run it out. It's my time. It's my time to run.
Y'all like that juxtaposition, didn't you?
It's my time.
It really is. All right, got you.
Tell him I need my money right now. Probably the juice they stole out my crown.
Y'all make sure y'all stay tuned, man. We got one coming up next.
Sorry to tell you,
Morning show.
I know my value. I'm gonna recoup it. But don't waste my energy, my energy. I don't got much, don't be wasting all my energy. I keep it tight, don't let nobody get close to me. My heart is right, don't question my integrity. No, I thought we would be just fine, and I thought your heart was like mine. But let me find out, you've been going around throwing shots, running plots. Come on, man, tryna block my blessings, but no need for comparisons. What's from me won't be from me. Yeah, I'ma go through just to grow through. But baby, what you want me for? I make what you been saying about me true.
Jason Mark, what's going on?
Tell him I need my money right now. Brought me the juice, they stole out my crown. Yeah. Sorry to tell you, I know my value. I'm gonna recoup it. Don't waste my loyalty, my loyalty. I let you in back then because I couldn't see.
Hey, y'all, when I had my hip
you ain't never
surgery,
been true
I
to
asked
me.
the surgeon if I could administer my own anesthetic. He said, sure.
Handle your business, do what you think you need to do to get your revenge.
Good morning, Alicia.
You won't break me, God, that's my witness. Past the point of no return, I'm on a mission. Tryna block my blessings, but no need for comparisons. What's from me won't be from me.
Corey Girl User, good morning. Sorry, Quirky Girl User, good morning. Alicia, you know you like my jokes, girl. Stop
Pay me
playing
what
with
you
me.
want me for, I make what you've been saying about me true. True. Tell him I need my money right now. Brought me the juice, they stole out my crown.
All right, y'all. Y'all know what time it is now. It's time for On the Clock with Georgia Ford. But first, here's Benjamin Dixon. Good morning, Brother Ben.
Smoothest way I've ever heard of anybody say, run me my money. Who is the name of that artist saying, tell me I need my money right now? Like,
you are a terrible person. You know what? I don't have his name, unfortunately, but I can get it for you by the next break.
I did not realize that we already had the formidable Georgia Fort on the screen. I wanted to properly introduce her as one of the few journalists who have been inside of the courtroom, both in the state trial of Derek Chauvin and the federal charges against the 3 other officers who were present when Chauvin killed George Floyd. There's something that our friend of the show says, Clip Albright. He says that we are here to bear witness to justice. And that's what we're doing this morning on the clock with Georgia Fort.
That's right. Good morning, Ryan. Good morning, Bubba. You know, the thing. The thing about this federal trial that's currently happening in Minnesota is that there's no cameras allowed in the courtroom. And so while a lot of people have been able to bear witness to the state trial, whether it was Kim Potter's state trial or Chauvin's state trial, no one has really been able to watch the federal trial. Now, this is standard practice across the board when it comes to federal proceedings. Typically, those are the trials where we see those sketches, right? So there's a sketch artist. That is the only visual documentation that is allowed to happen inside the federal court. And so this morning marks day 3 of the federal trial. They were able to pick 18 jurors in one day. And so far, they've called about 4 witnesses to the stand, including a few we heard from during the Chauvin trial. The 20-year-old who was working the cash register at Cup Foods when George Floyd was accused of bringing in that counterfeit $20 bill. And Charles McMillan, the elderly man who got extremely emotional on the stand. He was walking by and observed what was happening. He also gave an account as well. But the thing I really want to point attention to about the federal proceeding so far for the other 3 officers charged in the death of George Floyd. You know, Courtney Ross, she's the girlfriend of George Floyd. We saw her testify during the Chauvin trial. She was coming in every single day to observe, to watch, to witness. And she gave a press conference during, I think, a lunch break. And the judge has now kicked her out. She's no longer allowed to come inside of the courtroom. She's no longer allowed to watch the proceedings. And following that, attorney Earl Gray, who is representing Kimberly Potter, he's representing Thomas Lane in this case. Earl Gray, she made a motion asking that not only she be kicked out, but also that George Floyd's brother and his nephew also be kicked out. And so some people are now drawing parallels to what happened during the trial of the 3 men who were charged in Ahmaud Arbery's death. These attorneys making these very large demands, asking that specific people be kicked out, specifically people of color. And so, Ben, you know, these types of motions, I think, really reveal the agenda of these attorneys, that they want this to be a close case. It's already difficult to relay information to the public because there's no cameras allowed. But now you're asking that 2 of the relatives of George Floyd, and also probably 2 of the only Black people in the courtroom, be removed.
Georgia, good morning. That's the part. And then also Earl Gray, like the attorney who was the attorney for Kim Potter, she was found guilty. I wouldn't want him to be my attorney. However, it sounds like he has a desire to help some cops get away with murder. That said, what happened in the courtroom yesterday, as you have described it to us, is appalling, because if anybody should be there to bear witness to the process of justice, it should be the families of the victims. And it's just absurd.
That's right. And then we're learning that out of the jurors who are there, only 2 of them are people of color. There's 1 Asian male juror, 1 female Asian juror, and the rest are white men and women. And so while I know people like to think that race does not play a factor, but it is concerning when you talk about having a jury of your peers. And Minnesota, I think there's a 30% population of Black people that live here. And so how is it that we continuously get these juries that don't reflect the population?
So Georgia, first of all, Georgia, good morning. And let me say that in a case where they don't allow cameras in the room, if you're in that room, we got our camera. So thank you so much for what you do. But Georgia, if you could, can you please explain to us, and I've often wondered why there were certain cases where the courtroom can be packed with cameras, and then there's certain cases where there are no cameras and there are these sketches rendering what is going on. So can you tell us what the difference is that allows that situation to exist? And finally, given that, are you now going to come under scrutiny for being on the show talking about this case?
That's a good question.
Well, that's a fair question. I do think because I am considered media that, we're permitted to speak about it. We're permitted to do live shots about it. But other individuals who are there representing what they call the public are not given those same freedoms. It's under the First Amendment right, freedom of press. However, that is also what attorneys were arguing on behalf of George Floyd's brother and nephew, specifically saying that they also have freedom of speech. So, I guess you could argue that. In terms of which cases are allowed to have cameras, that's a great question. In this instance, this is a federal case. The three other officers who are charged in the death of George Floyd are facing federal charges. They pleaded not guilty to violating George Floyd's civil rights. We know Chauvin, in terms of the federal case, he pleaded guilty. Now, federal courts still are not allowing cameras in the courtroom. So that is kind of a standard practice across the board when it comes to federal cases. In terms of state cases, which is what the Chauvin trial was, that was the state of Minnesota prosecuting Derek Chauvin. And so in Minnesota, typically, we have had a history of not having cameras in the courtroom. There was an exception made in that case because of the abundance of public interest to watch the proceedings. Now, in other states like Georgia, they have different state laws. And so in Georgia, when I worked there many years ago, I was allowed, even in state proceedings and county proceedings, to come in with my camera, as long as you had permission from the judge that was overseeing that case. And sometimes they give you certain parameters about not shooting certain witnesses. Of course, in no case can you ever film the jury. But state by state, they have different rules for their state cases. So that is why you'll see a variation of the way that court proceedings are filmed across the country.
So given that, and thank you so much, because I've never understood that. So you're saying that, is it across the board in all federal cases, they will not allow cameras in the courtroom?
Correct.
And based on that, of hearing, because now the issue of race clearly comes into play for me. Up until now, your explanation, I wasn't quite sure, because I was of the mindset that if the judge gave instructions on what can and what is and is not allowed, it's pretty clear. And if the family member broke that rule, then it is what it is. However, when you add into it freedom of speech, and you add into it that members of the press are going to go out and talk about it, how could she be given instructions to say she can't interview? And so, how did you see that play out? And for me, a lot of these situations are about race. I don't think some are and some aren't. America was built on racism, so I accept that. So, but given the understanding that members of the press can cover this case, you're not allowing cameras in, but I do have my freedom of speech.
That's right.
So what was the judge, what is the basis of him now saying, okay, you're kicked out of this for the rest of these proceedings?
Well, I mean, if you ask me, I think it's an overreach. However, I think he tried to lead into the premise that she was either going to be a witness or that she potentially could be a witness. However, because she was not there, she wasn't an eyewitness. She's not giving a fact-based, evidence-based account of what happened. She would be giving a character account of who George Floyd was. And so there's a lot more leniency when you're talking about character witnesses versus fact-based witnesses. So I do think that judgment was an overreach. I participated in a media preparation call where the PIO for the federal courts, along with another federal judge, not the one presiding over a case, but another.
I'm sorry, Georgia. What is PIO? I'm sorry.
Oh, public information officer. So the person who's handling the press and handling communications with the public from the federal court. So she works there and her job is communications for that specific courthouse. And so it was with her, another judge from that federal courthouse, and I think one or two other federal employees. And during this media preparation call, they told us that we could do live broadcasts from outside of the security checkpoint, that we could conduct interviews there, and that it was going to be based on a first come, first served basis. So if you arrived a little late and it was already full, then so be it. They weren't going to be allowing reservations. And they said only about 5 media people could fit in that designated location. So it is a bit confusing also that here in this case, where we as media were even told that we could be interviewing people as they're coming and going right there in this designated place under the contingency that we film away from the security checkpoint, no filming of that area. Those were the parameters that were given to the media. And so it's also very frustrating, I think, to be a member of the media, knowing that we were set up there under their guidelines, under their instructions, with the permitting to be able to interview people. And then here you have Courtney Ross, the girlfriend of George Floyd, who is being punished for that. It feels a bit of an overreach, and like there's a breakdown in communication between the presiding judge and his staff.
So Georgia, I want to be absolutely clear. So you could be outside the courtroom when the doors open, Sister Ross walks out, you can begin to conduct an interview with her, and that's okay. But if she called a press conference to give her thoughts, she's now kicked out for that.
Yeah, that's what it's appearing to be. And, you know, the difference between a press conference and an interview, you know, I don't really think that there's much of a difference there. I mean, you're talking about potentially one outlet having access to that interview, but the way that wire services are set up these days, if it was the Associated Press or Reuters or CNN who was the one conducting the interview, potentially all of the outlets could end up with it anyways, which would be the same thing as doing a press conference. So again, in my opinion, it feels a bit of an overreach. It feels like there's been some mixed messaging that has dispositioned key members of the Floyd family or supporters of Floyd. And meanwhile, we're seeing supporters of the 3 officers, you know, they're allowed to be in there. I believe each one has about 3 seats available for them. I've seen them come and go. You know, they're currently out on bail. When I was walking into the courtroom during one of the pretrial hearings, Thomas Lane and Alexander King were walking in right behind me with attorney Earl Gray. And so it reminds me a lot of the conversations we saw happening in the courtroom during the trial for the 3 men accused of killing Ahmaud Arbery. This overreach of trying to dictate who has access to the courtroom. And in that instance, Georgia, they were pushing out the preachers.
I'm sorry. So Georgia, just to be clear, No other member of the Floyd family was dismissed from the courtroom with the exception of his girlfriend. Is that correct?
I don't think that the judge made a determination on that, but Earl Grey did push for that, saying, and I'm not 100% sure if they participated in that press conference also, but he was moving a motion to have them removed as well under the same context.
So, support, the George Floyd murder is one of the most important flashpoints in this country's history, and it's shaping out to be as such. And I'm honored that you, being one of the few journalists who have been able to bear witness both on the state level and now on the federal level, I'm honored that you're able to come here every morning and give us these updates. I want to get your insight onto something, if I could. And Dr. Mack, you already brought it up, because to me, both of these stories are interconnected. The Governor Youngkin out of Virginia setting up a hotline for parents to call in, or to email in rather, and to complain about critical race theory or whatever else he is wrapping up into this hotline. He says, we're asking for folks to send us reports and observations, Youngkin said, about what's going on with critical race theory. Here's the thing. This is deputizing parents who, some of them might even be parents who are going to email. Let me stop. Some of the people who are going to email this list are not even going to be parents. They're not even going to be people from the school district. It's going to be in a continuation and an extension of this fear mongering around actual history, and juxtaposing that to the fact that you're bearing witness to history as it happens in the George Floyd murder case and the federal case. I just want to know, you as a parent, what do you feel about this now deputizing of other people who potentially aren't even connected to the school system, sending them in there to intimidate teachers with these reports to the now the governor of Virginia?
Ben, I feel like our country is moving backwards. When you, even upon the reflections I did on Martin Luther King Day and looking back at his archive and past interviews and footage, and when you read the statements that were on the signs then, and you juxtaposition that to the statements that are on the signs of protesters now, it feels as though we're in the same era. It feels like we haven't really made much progress. And so what we see every time that there has been a movement for the advancement of Black people in this country, we see a different form of resistance to that advancement. And so I think what we're seeing is a modern day iteration of that resistance. And so, I mean, when you think about when we got the right to vote, what happened? All of a sudden, there was a poll tax. There was some response to our advancement, a response that made our advancement harder, less tangible, more expensive, or just not tangible at all. And so I feel like when I look at the education system and I see how many, especially Black women across this country, who have been working relentlessly to close the achievement gap, to close some of those disparities in our education system. And even as I look at our young people and see just how educated they are on their history and how that has equipped them and informed them to be successful in fighting for the advancement of Black people today, right? And so now what we're seeing is, like you said, a weaponizing of the classrooms in a way that dispositions our children from knowing the truth about not only who they are, but the truth about this country.
That's and Georgia,
okay, brother man.
And Ben, let me say this. The most interesting, and Georgia, I posed this question to Ben earlier, and that is, 200 years from now, do you think that they'll still be teaching about the Japanese attack in Pearl Harbor? Do you think that they'll still be teaching about the 9/11 attacks? And yet 200 years today, you think about the fact that in his state, Youngkin, I want you to remember this, Youngkin. Are you telling me that it is criminal for me to teach that at one time your state passed a law making it illegal to teach my children simply because of the color of their skin, not the content of their character. Youngkin, are you telling me that it is wrong for me to teach that in your state, because slave owners impregnated enslaved women, that now you passed a law that said that the birth of that child is not based on the content of his character, but on the condition of servitude of his mother? Are you telling me that today, when I look at voter suppression, that I should not remember what happened in the gubernatorial election of 1905 versus that of 1902? Because see, back during that time, they invoked these poll taxes that you're talking about, Georgia, literacy tests, where now the state of Virginia passed a law saying that a voter had to prove an understanding of the Constitution. And as a result of what they did prior to the 1905 gubernatorial election, they were able to lessen the number of people that voted, 88,000. That's what happened when they invoked their voter suppression efforts. So are you telling me that I should not teach what you did yesterday because maybe, just maybe, it'll bring some level of clarity to the bullshit that you're doing today? Is that what you're telling me?
That's right. That's what I think I'm hearing. I'm hearing that they don't want to be responsible for the history of their ancestors, and that's just, and more importantly, the history that's happening right now. The history that's happening right now.
We shouldn't laugh about it, because the fact of the matter is, see, if all you say is slavery, you really are glossing over the real condition. That's right. When you get inside the nuances of it, that those same, when he's trying to evoke children, try to imagine, Georgia, and I've watched you and your beautiful family, being you and your beautiful family, try to imagine that somebody takes all of us to the auction blocks. And Georgia, they're taking your children away from you and sending them to different plantations. They're taking you and your wife and they're separating you and your wife. They're separating the children. We're brothers and sisters. They're separating us. Try to imagine the inhumanity that went inside this institution of slavery. So when you began to teach that, that is a level of guilt that even today it hurts me to read about it. So try to imagine a white racist like Youngkin and all these other Proud Boys. This is what they don't want you to get into. Not only are they guilty about it, but just the inhumanity of it all. And that is where the word hypocrisy in this, or the phrase, the hypocrisy of this democracy comes from. It's a shame that's too great for them to bear. So at all costs, they are going to deny the truth of teaching, of our experience. That's right. Not based on the content of my children's character, but because of the color of their skin.
That's
Absolutely.
right. You know, and there
Georgia,
is
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say quick, there is a mentor and friend of mine who hosts a phenomenal radio show here called Urban Agenda. And she interweaves what's happening currently with historical context. One of the things she always asks our audience is, who stole your history and why did they steal it? Because we're seeing that happen now. But Brother Mac, to your point, you know, that happened during chattel slavery. You know, we didn't know about our history. We didn't know about the medical advancement of the Egyptians, that they were already performing surgeries. We didn't know that we were kings and queens. Our history, where we came from, who we were, was taken from us. That's right. And that having that lack of identity, that erasure of who we are, helped them manipulate us and keep us in slavery. And so the same thing I feel like we're seeing happening modern day. And those are the questions we need to be asking ourselves. We need to think critically and ask ourselves, who's trying to steal our history and why?
Yeah. So support Brother Mac. If y'all can hang out for a few more minutes, we're going to get over into Like It or Not. And I want to carry some of this conversation over there because Brother Mac, you said something to just rip my, you said, try to imagine. I do my best not to imagine because as my imagination, as rich as it is, goes into the nuances, like you said, of how cruel these monsters were to our ancestors.
Absolutely, monsters.
I every time I think of it, I need my DJ exclusive. Run us some music, man. Get us to go ahead before we go to break. Go ahead.
Before we go there, Georgia, I do want to say to you again, sister. You know, when you said that cameras aren't allowed in the court, and I promise that for all of us listening today, you are our camera.
Yes.
And I just want to thank you so much for your outstanding body of work. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And I got to get ready to head down there today.
You headed back down? All right. Well, let's get a chance to get out of here. Georgia Ford on the clock. We'll be back with more on the Benjamin Dixon Morning Show after this break.
You can make my world go black.
I hate
Say you love me.
Good morning again, everybody. Make sure that y'all stay tuned. We got Like It or Not starting up next year on the Benjamin Dixon Morning Show. Good morning, everybody.
You want my forgiveness, so say it again. You're my thunder, my darkest night. You just can't go back and make it right. 'Cause it's too late, your time is up. Damage done and now it's stuck. 'Cause it's too late, you roll the dice, and now you have to pay the price. Yeah, I'm in a better place now. I'm not gonna worry, no, I'm not even sorry. You're gonna be the lonely one. I'm in a better place now. I'm not gonna worry, no, I'm not even sorry. You're gonna be the lonely one. Say it again, say it again. You're saying you feel bad, so say it again. Only you can do that. My heart was open wide. I could feel it breaking deep inside. 'Cause it's too late, your time is up.
It is me. I am here. No bubble box today. Courtney the SLP, good morning. Indian Brown, good morning to you.
In a better place now. I'm not gonna worry, no, I'm not even sorry. You're gonna be the lonely one. I'm in a better place now. I'm not gonna worry, no, I'm not even sorry. You're gonna be the lonely one. I'm in a better place now. I'm not gonna worry, no, I'm not even sorry. You're gonna be the lonely one. I'm in a better place now. I'm not gonna worry.
Truth is Dragon trying to make me go to school and study Jello. What is that? Nicole, how good morning to you? Make sure y'all stay tuned, man. We got more coming up next on the Benjamin Dixon Morning Show. Like It or Not is coming up next. You know, I wonder what my parents did to fight boredom before the internet. I asked my 18 brothers and sisters, and they don't know either.
See it from your eyes unless it's Cartier. Ran into my old chick. She said you ain't playing fair, playing fair, playing fair. No, I ain't playing fair, playing fair, playing fair. No, I ain't playing fair. Asked her why she staying there. She said she don't know. I had to ask some more, but I really had to go and get my bop on. Yeah, I get my bop on. If she needs some good, tell her she got hop on. She know I'm the top dog. I know she a hot one. Balenci's on the feet, and you know I got the socks on. Yeah, I get my bop on. Yeah, I get my bop on. If she needs some good, tell her she got hop on. She know I'm the top dog. I know she a hot one. Balenci's on the feet, and you know I got the socks on. She said with my high sauce, she ain't with no knocked off. See, don't be gon' pop off, but getting dropped off. Kicking in the door, we ain't knock on it. Ice on your beat, and you know it got the bop to it. Running up the strings like the stock market. They ain't with no beat, tell them stop talking. Rock a goatee like I'm Hulk Hogan. Put on R&B, then I hit her with the slow stroking. Ooh. Then I told her she could hop on it, hop on it, bop on. Yeah, I get my bop on. If she needs some good, tell her she could hop on. She know I'm the top dog. I know she a hot one, but Lindsay's on the feet, and you know I got the socks on. Yeah, I get my pop on. Yeah, I get my bop on. If she needs some good, tell her she could hop on. She know I'm the top dog. I know she a hot one, but Lindsay's on the feet, and you know I got the socks on. Yeah, yeah. Double B's on me, yeah. Double C's on the dough. Double D's dunking no. Going nuts for the flow. Tank on E, F it, bro. I'm a G, let him know. Who is he? ISO. Who is he?
ISO. Good morning. And a heart.
If she wanna give me that, gotta keep the top on. But she got the top off while I got top off. She was taking too long. Now I'm feeling nod dog. So I get my bop on. Yeah, I get my bop on. If she needs some good, tell her she can hop on. She know I'm the top dog. I know she a hot one, but Lindsay's on the feet, and you know I got the socks on. Yeah, I get my bop on. Yeah, I get my bop on. If she needs some good, tell her she can hop on. She know I'm the top dog. I know she a hot one, but Lindsay's on the feet, and you know I got the socks on. Yeah, yeah.
Indian Brown, it sounds just like Logic, don't it? All right, y'all, we're going to give y'all a little bit of funk before we get into the sleaze this morning, y'all. Y'all stay tuned. Rockin' the Night is coming up next. Here on the Benjamin Dixon Morning Show.
Set my soul on fire every morning and every evening. Ooh. And maybe we can't get any higher, but if you like to take a ride, we can discover what we're hiding. Making you move, it sure looks good. Playing it cool like you know you should.
Tiger, I'm so glad that you asked. Tiger said, Bubba, I need your most out-of-pocket dad joke. Okay, cool. Here it goes. I was sitting on the toilet, angry and late for work. I thought, I don't have time for this shit.
I'm running too hot, I need to cool me down. I'm flying so high, I don't see the ground. I'm running too hot, I need to cool me down. I'm flying so high, I don't see the ground.
They asked what, I just gave the people what they wanted. Hell.
Maybe you set my soul on fire every morning and every evening. Ooh. And maybe we can't get any higher, but if you like to take a ride, we can discover what we're hiding. Taking your time and a short time.
Oh, man. Good morning, Taj. Good morning.
Getting wild.
Chris Lionheart, good morning, y'all. Six Jack and Daddy, good morning. And right, hopefully that's not in my pocket.
I'm running too hot, I need to cool it down. I'm flying so high, I don't see the ground. I'm running too hot, I need to cool it down. I'm flying so high, I don't see the ground.
Good morning.
Baby, you set my soul on fire.
Dwayne, say one more time, Dwayne.
And every evening, ooh.
Okay.
And maybe we can't get any higher, but if you like to take a ride, we can discover.
All right, y'all. Y'all welcome back to the screen. My brother's from another mother.
Soul on fire.
Oh, okay, cool. Yay.
Morning, and every evening, ooh. And maybe we can't get any higher, but if you like to take a ride, we can
My mama gonna get me for that joke. Being mama too.
Y'all know what time it is. Good morning, y'all. Get your coffee and tea, remix, whatever it is you need.
Hey, you know it's called Like It's Time for Us to tell the truth and not care who doesn't like it, right? No, that doesn't include the parents.
Politics and culture is weak.
Our parents gonna cuss us out, bro. We still not old enough to get a whooping.
We get to choose what gets the views. Like it or not, with Queens Azure, it started now, so stick around.
Like it or not, it's going down. Like it or not, y'all stick around. Oh, Rebecca's on. Rebecca's in the building. She's coming through. just for you. Oh, Benjamin Dixon. That's my dog. That's my dog, y'all. That's my dog. This is his show. He thinks this is his show. He's a part. We be running his ass all over the place. We love you, Benjamin. I am your DJ. DJ exclusive. It was a couple of cows smoking weed the other day and playing poker. I stay dropping them jams. The stakes were high. Like it or not, it's going down. Like it or not. I'm in my bag this morning a little bit. I love y'all. Around. Oh, like it or not, it's starting now. Emily French, good morning. Like it or not. Here we go, y'all. Like it or not, it's starting now. Good morning, everybody.
Like It or Not with Benjamin Dixon starts now.
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Good morning, and welcome to Like It or Not, where we're free to tell the truth
and not care who doesn't like it. I'm trying to see why y'all got him cracking up, because I wanted to be cracking up too.
You want me to tell you? You want me to tell you, Rebecca?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
I was sitting on the toilet, angry and late for work, and I thought, I don't have time for this shit. Rebecca face.
That's a true story. That's a true story.
That's a true story.
True story.
We're so childish. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if we can soar to the heights of intellectual philosophy and linguistics and all that stuff. At the end of the day, there's nothing like a good bullet jokes.
But I like that car. I like it. For me, it's Dr. Mac who is laughing. I like to hear his laugh.
Right. Me too.
Dr. Mac. I don't know.
He got that light-skinned man laugh.
It is. It's a little Drakey.
It's a little Drakey.
It's a little Drakish. You know what I'm saying?
Listen. Speaking of colorism, my God, we came off the top rope this morning with a toilet joke and colorism. Where are we going next? We need to trifecta. We got color. Jesus.
Well, we always go there, so
we never.
We're definitely going to turn the corner and probably
Peter.
make. Who? Oh,
we need to invoke Peter.
Don't make the name.
A couple of cows were smoking weed and playing poker. The stakes were high.
I like that one though.
Oh no! Wait, I laughed so hard. Take me down.
Peter is definitely coming for us.
Big ass snot coming out of his mouth.
Oh, okay, y'all. Listen. Get it together, Ben, because go get a napkin.
I'm waiting for the camera. I'm waiting to come down for the camera, Dwayne. Take me down.
Take him down. Oh, who was that?
Random Susie.
What was Good morning,
James,
you guys.
if there's ever a
you guys.
joke-
And again,
God,
welcome to Like It or Not. I hope that wasn't. What the hell was that? Listen, it is Wednesday, January 26th. Guys, I feel like when we don't come on Mondays, the weeks do feel shorter, right? And I think that's the good thing, because I've been needing that rest. But then it's like there's so many stories that happen over the weekend, and then we have that Monday that comes up, and then it's like, dang, we didn't cover it on Monday. Then the week comes up, and it's like, geez, there's so much other stories to cover. But there's so many, right? There's so many.
Yeah.
Yesterday, look, because I got a story to tell. Yesterday, I was thinking to myself how depressed I used to be. I know we talk about this all the time. How depressed I used to be waking up at 5 a.m. to get ready for my 8 o'clock shift. Because although the distance from my place to the office was only 30 minutes, Atlanta traffic, you got to add an extra hour.
Another hour. Yep.
That's right.
So I was thinking to myself, geez, like I didn't have time to do any nothing at all. No yoga, no morning workouts, no prayer, no meditation, nothing. My focus was her, like, trying to figure out how. The only thing for me was how to be cute at work, because that was the only thing that made me feel good. Sometimes I would really just be like, man, forget it. They just don't get what they get today. But it would be 5 o'clock in the morning to go start an 8 o'clock shift, and then you leave your shift at 5, and then you don't get home till like 7:30. Oh, God is so good, because I can't never go back. I'm never going back. I'm never going back. I'm never going back. And I was thinking for these last 2 years, I know, me and my corporate, we've been, and every time they've been trying to send out emails to say that we're going back into the office, I have provided pushback. I have told them, discuss the different variants of of COVID-19. I have. And, God has been good as to where when they started putting people back in the office little by little, they seen that it was actually serious. COVID-19 spread like a wildfire in less than 48 hours in the office. Yeah. And so, and now they're starting to take it serious. And a lot of the people that I communicate within my corporate job are telling me, I never really realized how serious COVID-19 was until it tapped on my door. One man I was speaking to yesterday, he was just like, I just got out of the hospital. And I saw my life flash before my eyes. I used to be like, yeah, I'll just stay masked up, stay this, stay that. And I would be going into the office, going into work. And this was another man that, one of the clients that we have. And he's like, I'm just going into work, going into the office, going back home. And then I got sick. Mm-hmm. And he said, when I got sick, I just saw my life flash before my eyes. And then one of my co-workers actually reached out to me. She just got married. And she just reached out to me and she was like, I just wanted to touch bases with you. My daughter, who's only 5, ended up getting COVID-19 from her school. Brought it home. She ended up getting sick. And then while she was sick, she was like, okay, I got to go to the hospital. So her husband drove her over to the hospital. On his way back home, he felt like he was getting sick, but he wanted to hold it down for their daughter. The doctors told him, listen, we don't even need to test you guys because you have a 5-year-old. You're going to get it. So just quarantine with her. And then when my friend was in the hospital, her husband actually ended up having to call the ambulance on himself to get to the hospital just a few hours after he dropped her off at the hospital. And he called her while he was there. And she's like, why are you here? It was like, well, I'm sick now. And I just wanted to, I feel like I'm going down. The next morning, he was put on arrest. What is it? The ventilator.
The ventilator.
The ventilator. He was put on the ventilator, and that was the last time she spoke to him. Was the night before, but God, because I went into prayer for her. And so all of this from her 5-year-old coming home with COVID, and she said she took her baby out of school as soon as as possible, but it already got to the household. And, just to know that you just get married with your husband and you don't even know that that's going to be the last time that you spoke to him in that month. But, God is good. After weeks, they allowed him to come off the ventilator because he was, his percentage was getting better as far as him breathing on his own. And now he is up. So that's a testimony.
Amen. How long was he on the ventilator, Rebecca?
Like weeks, I think
my God.
3.5
My
weeks.
God, man.
Most people don't make it past that. Most people
don't.
That's wild.
Yep.
A lot of folks, man. It's I don't know. I'm when you said it spread it so fast in like 48 hours, when the Omicron variant came, I mean, it took 2-3 days for the entire map to go completely red from the Omicron variant. But it's like we're simultaneously enough people are getting sick now that we can actually get out of this if people like actually follow some science now. But I feel like because so many people have been affected and because people are not following the science, it's like it's setting up the stage for something even worse. When if we do the right thing in this moment, we actually could get out of this at some point. But it's just crazy, man. It's a lot.
I really don't think we're coming out of it. Most times I know I'm an optimist. It's just like, man, it seems like it's a new variant every week. You got Omarion. I mean, Omicron out here. Then you got a stealth version of Omicron, and now I heard it's another Omicron BC or AB, something like that. It just seems like it's ongoing. This thing, I really feel it's not going nowhere.
I don't know.
Like, I hope so, but it's just looking at these numbers, and granted, there is a decline in the numbers, but there's always a decline, and then it goes right back to hell up again.
Brother Mac, you were saying. Well, I was real quick, Rebecca, because we were talking about Pearl Harbor, 9/11 specifically. We've had multiple days in this pandemic where as many Americans died in a single day from the pandemic as died from 9/11, and yet and still we were not changing our ways. They're doing the same thing over and over again. We just had a day this past weekend where over 2,300 Americans died on a single day from the pandemic.
Go ahead, Dr. Carmack.
The number of deaths behind COVID versus what happened in 9/11, they're not even close.
That's right.
But one of the things, Ben, I do want to circle back with you is we saw this clip yesterday with Bill Maher, and we were trying to figure out what Bill Maher's position was, right? What did he say? So I actually went back and looked at that show. And the fact of the matter is that Bill Maher was on the side. The one guy who was challenging her was the black representative, and he happened to have been from New York. He was the one that challenged her on some of her rhetoric. But Bill Maher was in lockstep with, it's time for us to get back to normalcy. And so they started citing all the things that are going on in Europe. Europe is getting rid of the mask mandate, no longer requiring a vaccination card, these types of things. And so Bill Maher was actually in step with her. But I did appreciate the way that she passed it off as like no big deal. And this guy coming from New York put her in check about that. So, we were wondering about whether or not Maher was going to check her, and he did not. He actually was co-signing and had the exact same position she had. However, the brother took a slightly different approach. He felt like, it was time for us, it's getting to be close to the time for us to come out, but let's not go back and pretend like this wasn't real and this didn't require all that we have done to get to this point.
I'm sorry I didn't mean to make it heavy, but I feel like I can't even lie. I'm finding a way to adjust because I just feel like it's not going anywhere. So I got to find my way to adjust because I've already went through my depression. I've already been in this house. I've already gone crazy. It's been a lot that has happened for me personally. And I know you understand too, Bubba. It's just all of us here have gone through whatever the hell this pandemic has brought us through. Now, I will say, I don't want us to forget that it's still out there. Just me going out to the wedding. They made us do a COVID-19 test before going into the wedding. Okay. Good. Okay. And especially because it was a production too, but it's going to be on TV. But they did make everybody take a COVID test. They provided the COVID test for you at the venue and at another place down the street, so that they made sure that everybody was able to get their COVID test. I honestly think, with the shifting and the CDC telling you here, telling you there, what hasn't changed is that the disease is still out there. That's right. You can still be infected. There are different variants. This is the truth. The numbers, America, right? The United States has had the largest numbers globally in one day, okay? As far as cases. So, and this is on top of us still having places that are no longer, recording the cases. Some places you're going into, I know, just to get tested, they're saying, well, how do you feel? And they're going off of that. Well, just go home. They're not giving you any positive tests, negative. They're not doing anything. And some of them are saying you'll be fine within 5 days. And we're starting to learn and see that 5 days is not becoming enough. And 5 days are for people who are asymptomatic, right? This is what the CDC says. And I'll just point out this for you guys. 5 days literally came after Delta was asking the CDC to push it to 5 days so that they can, relieve the stress of not having workers come to work. So for me, there's a lot that goes into it. I don't have my conspiracy theorist hat with me, but that's how I feel. I feel like we shouldn't just go 5 days. We shouldn't just say, oh, I hit the 14 days. Some people's, are still infectious after those days. This is the facts of the matter. And some people still, have symptoms after those days. So, you're not able to work. So there's a lot that's going into this. I'm saying this to say, we're not going to get out of this because the world, and I'll say our world here in the United States, is finding a way to try to make it better without sitting down and actually getting through it by applying what we need to apply. If quarantining is the way to go that route, but don't just limit yourself to 5 days. If you know you're sick, let's use our mind. Let's use our common sense. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Wear your mask. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't go places and then come home and be around folks. Don't force teachers to be in an atmosphere where they can get it, or forcing parents to have to have their kids in these schools in these moments and not give them any assistance, because some of them have their kids go to school meals, right? The education system should be pushing for kids to have meals delivered to their home or something in that fashion to assist them while they're at home. There needs to be ways, and I feel like we can do it, and we should be able to come out of this. We really should.
That's right. That's right.
Looking too good for us.
And let me read a comment for y'all too from Kev Z. He said, my girlfriend and one of the kids got COVID and were sick. I was asymptomatic and my job said it was okay to go to work.
Wow.
And that's the other issue right there, that these employers, they don't care. I've heard a few other jobs say the same thing. Oh, you did your 5 days, you can come back to work. No, you're not coming back in here.
Yeah.
The thing, I don't know if anybody remembers at the beginning of the pandemic, the worst symptoms of COVID-19, at least with the original variant, didn't come until after 5 days.
Yep.
Some of the symptoms, the worst part of it, didn't come until after 10 days. So when they moved this thing down, because originally you had to quarantine for 15 days, which was based on everything that we discussed at the beginning and we researched at the beginning of the pandemic, 15 days to quarantine to make sure that you're no longer able to spread it. And now they've dumped it all the way down to 5 days. And I think the reason they can get away with that is because, one, everybody's exhausted and everybody's tired. I get that. But then two, they know a lot of people forgot. The worst part of COVID-19 usually comes between days 5 and 10, at least the original variant. And now here we are saying 5 days. It's insane. We could have been out of this. Had we done the right thing at the beginning, 2.5 years into this, we could have been done.
Well, but Ben, and fam, the other thing that we have to remember is that America's greatest strength in this case has now become its greatest weakness. And I'm saying that in comparison to, say, China. China's a communist government. When the Chinese government say lock it down, you walk your ass outside if you want to. They'll pop a cap in you and it's done. When they say lock it down, they mean lock it down. In America, because of the freedoms we have, it should have been understood from the beginning that you cannot mandate. I mean, under certain circumstances, absolutely you can. But in this case, the ability to try to tell this nation who is in love with its freedoms what you can and cannot do, this is not communist China. So that's why, even though the virus originated in China, because of that communist government and their ability to mandate that everybody quarantine, shelter in place, do these types of activities. That, I believe, is why they have moved beyond it so far. And then the other thing, Ben, is, and Queen and DJ, when we're talking about the guidelines keep moving and keep shifting, we got to understand we're not dealing with a static virus. And static meaning in place. Forces are on it and it's in place. We are dealing with a dynamic virus that is constantly moving, constantly evolving, constantly mutated. And scientists are doing the best they can, because again, it's just like if you take a medicine, you listen carefully to the next time you hear one of these medical commercials come up, and at the end, they say it can cause all these side symptoms, because no medicine is going to be the same for any one person. So they're doing the best they can to try to have an overarching understanding of what we should expect. But again, what you had to do and the impact of COVID-19 versus the Delta variant versus this new strand is Omicron. It's all going to be different. So we have to be able to wage that. And instead, what they want to do on the right side is say, oh, well, first they tell us 14 days. Now they tell us 10 days. Now they tell us 5 days. They're doing that based on what they're understanding this new variant to be and what its potency is for and against us. So we need to keep that in mind as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Rebecca Azor.
What's that?
It's your world.
It's my world.
We have coming up momentarily. Go ahead, you got it.
Yeah, we're going to take a brief break, but coming up, we do have a guest, which I think it's going to be really nice. I think, DJ, you'll really appreciate it. But we have a guest who is my friend, former VJ partner at Florida A&M University, the number one HBCU in the nation.
Nah, we ain't doing this.
Here we go.
You know
what? Never mind. We're good to go. We keep on going. It's okay.
Let's
go talk about critical race theory.
DJ, take it to break, and let's get ready for some Radler energy. I'm just giving you guys a little second to get yourselves together, okay?
Oh, hold on. I got the perfect song.
Hell, Wildcats.
We'll be back after this.
Let's go. We'll be back.
You better be glad. Look, you better be glad I couldn't find the dang on song, too.
Just give it up. I'm not your girl and I never will be. Don't call me up.
All right, y'all, make sure that you stay tuned. We have our special guest coming up next here on Like It or Not on the Benjamin Dixon Morning Show, y'all. Good morning, everybody. Y'all make sure that y'all hit that like button, share, comment, invite a friend wherever you are streaming from. Good morning, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. Good morning, everywhere. Good morning, y'all. Good morning, Act TV.
With having fun on my own, it's better to care for yourself. Not rely on somebody else. So don't get me wrong, I'm just riding alone. Just walk away, 'cause I got no intentions of hanging out with you tonight. Don't look my way. If you want a problem, I'll give you a problem, alright? If you want love, just give it up. You got the wrong girl. You got the wrong
KFZ, you a fool. Black Attack, okay, Texas Southern. Well, we all know what time it is. All right, y'all, let's get back to our special guest here. So next, coming on the screen, we have our sister from another Mr. Rebecca Azor. Hey, Rebecca, it's your world.
Hey, Wildcats.
Ooh, even the wild, it just sounds dry. Ain't no
don't you
sauce
even
in
try
that,
it. Every
but I
high
know
school.
where
Girl,
the
that
sauce is.
recording is like 20 years old.
Don't even
It
try
sounds like it. But you play something from 20 years ago from Florida A&M, it's still giving you what it needs to be gave. So
No, it sounds worse than that.
So here on today's show, it is
Missing
Wednesday. I want to introduce
Mouthpieces.
my friend Benjamin Carlton
Oh, he's a good name.
onto the show. Is he on here? Because I ain't hear his little voice. There he go. And listen, he comes in full. Listen, he comes in the full of it all. Listen, Benjamin, thank you so. Thank you. We gotta make
Oh, man.
Your green, baby.
Welcome to the show, brother. Welcome to the show. Put that mess down, but welcome to the
Oh,
show.
y'all, Chief striking. Hey, Dwayne, go ahead and stream right now. It's okay.
Be a moment. I told you it's going to be a moment, but as we settle down, the energy from Florida A&M is always high. What's up, Ben? How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing really good. I'm happy that we can get you on the show. Thank you so much for reaching out. I mean, that's something that I should have been thought about, but you tapped my shoulder. You was like, girl, listen, it's time. What's up? Let's have these conversations, and I appreciate you for that. You initially reached out to me about MJ, who won the Golden Globes, or the first trans to win the Golden Globes award, and you wanted to have that conversation. I know that was just at the beginning of this year, just a few weeks ago, but I still think that conversation is actually really, really pertinent, even with you being who you are. And I know that we'll get to that as well in this show, but there's just so much to go around that. Before we talk about that, though, I want you to introduce yourself to my audience.
Awesome. Well, first of all, thank you. I am Benjamin Carlton, actor, activist, and author of I'm Black, I'm a Minister, and I'm Gay, and founder of Stand for Love. And I hail from the number one HBCU in the nation, the illustrious Florida University. And I am excited to be with you. Originally from Philly, the city of brotherly love and sisterly affection. I'm now in LA trying to change lives through the power of the pen and the power of storytelling. And I stand for, Black rights, LGBTQ rights, youth rights, work extensively in a lot of youth spaces, just coming from a role of being a interim chief equity officer for Friends of the Children, an org that provides a mentor for children ages kindergarten all the way up until 12th grade. So I heard y'all talking about, COVID and its impact on youth and families, and we dealt with that this entire pandemic on what is best for youth against the crazy laws that are coming out of state houses across the country. People have lost their minds.
Yes, sir.
And capitalism literally trumps, all pun intended, health and safety and security. So yeah.
Oh no, that's a great point, right? It is about capitalism. It's money over everything, money over people. They rather us spend money and die spending money. That's just what it is. But that's another story for another day. We need to bring you on so we can have conversations, because that is what a Florida A&M Rattler can do. They can be here, there, and everywhere.
You know, Rebecca. Listen, we would not interrupt your interview if you were not interjecting so much foolishness about Florida A&M. Brother, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate it. Go ahead, Rebecca.
But I wanted to go back to the MJ Rodriguez. I know you reached out to me about the importance of that. So let's start there. MJ, who is trans and is an actor from the show Pose, right? And I know that's a very, very popular show. But her winning this Golden Globes award, why is that such a huge thing? Why should we be looking at that as something groundbreaking?
First of all, and let me say congratulations to MJ, who is an amazing, talented artist who absolutely shattered glass ceilings, but baby, she tore the building down. And this is why it's important, because it is so essential that people get their just due, and that we start honoring truth. And I'll take you on a journey. Black culture, African-American culture, Black culture is literally the heartbeat of the world. You can go anywhere in the world, listen to hip hop and R&B. You go to India, you go to China, you go to Australia, and they are mimicking Black culture, African-American culture. Right. But when you think about where Black and African-American culture comes from, it comes from queer culture. During the 80s and the 90s, all of the culture that was coming from the underground world of the queer community. All the slang, all the terminology was coming from the underground queer community, being stolen and being used, and they were making money from it. And that community never got its just due. If you think about today, who was writing all of our favorite movies? Who's writing all of our favorite songs? Where do the best gospel songs come from? Who's designing all of it, brother? Well, all of that comes from Black queer community. So if you follow the path, and if you can add 1 + 1, and if A + B = C, Black queer culture is the heartbeat of the world. And we are finally getting just due. And we need to keep our foot on the gas and keep our foot on everybody's necks to remind you, listen, this is where you get that slang from. This is where you got that. This is where you got the hairstyle from. Black queer people.
Let's talk about it.
Can I talk?
Okay, Rebecca, he's cool. He's cool, Rebecca. He's cool. He's cool, Rebecca. That's what I'm saying. He's cool.
Even though he
he's
went
cool.
to FAMU, he's cool.
Even though
two things to accent what he's saying there, brother. Because two other names that I think about on a regular basis. When I think about the civil rights movement, I can't think about it without James Baldwin, Bayard Rustin, and so many other names who, at the time, were giving their life's contribution. They put it all out there. But Black America and America in general was not ready to accept the brilliance because of their sexuality. But to this day, one of the most brilliant minds in the entire conversation about civil rights was James Baldwin.
Absolutely. Stand for Love and Native Son are partnering for Black History Month to launch a campaign called We Are Black History Too, celebrating America's Black queeros. And it's all about letting people know, listen, we would not have a civil rights movement without Black queer people. We wouldn't have the Harlem Renaissance without Black queer people. We wouldn't have an elevation of thought and an elevation in literature without Black queer people. We are literally everywhere at the source of everything. But because of age-old doctrine, because of scripture that's misinterpreted, because of people's personal ignorances, we are ignored and shunned. The one and only time I was disappointed, but I also understood the predicament he was in, Dr. Martin Luther King, is when they didn't want him, one, to do the march, but they didn't want him to disrupt the Democratic National Convention. So they sent Black politicians and representatives and said, if you continue on with what you're doing, we're going to start spreading rumors that you and Bayard Rustin are having an affair. And Dr. Martin Luther King distanced himself from Bayard for just a moment and then backed down. But then eventually, love triumphed, and we had the March on Washington, and they were back in. But we are at the heart of everything. Every major event in this country, we were at the heart of it.
Mm. And do you think that it's important to bring a lot of attention to MJ Rodriguez getting this award, because it would be so easy, because she's a part of the LGBTQIA community, to erase it
for
out
Kyle
of history.
Rittenhouse.
As you were just stating that, in a lot of these movements, a lot of things couldn't happen, and a lot of people kept quiet about the people who were at the head of the movement because of their sexualities. So do you think that it's important to continue to focus on her getting this Golden Globe? Because somewhere in history, like even 10 years from now, they will try to wash it away and just continue on and move forward with just like, without that being something that was historic.
It's important because it gives some type of reward and relieve the people who've been fighting for years. The people, like you said, who've committed their lives to the cause. When they see this, it makes the fight worth it. But it also is so important for the people coming up behind us. There are some people, there are a lot of youth who only knew a Black president at one point. Do you know what that did for them? And so for a queer youth or a trans youth to turn on their television and see that somebody like them has won one of the top awards for their talent speaks volumes. So it's so important to continue to uplift it, to continue to tell the story. People say, we don't care about your sexuality. We don't care about, and you do. Florida, they're trying to have a parental rights bill, but literally it's the Don't Say Gay bill, where they don't want teachers to talk about gender and sexuality in school. And so they're trying to erase who we are legally. We are facing discrimination at levels like never before because they're trying to take us backwards through the power of law. And so, yes, they do care. We need to keep uplifting these stories and focusing on people like that.
Rebecca, just to what he said, there is the law. We had Chevron Jones, State Senator Chevron Jones, on the show last week,
and another rattler about that.
Damn it! I'm trying to help the segment. You keep talking about these damn.
I don't like him no more, Rebecca. I don't like him no more.
Chevron is from FAMU. He had a clip go viral yesterday calling out Ron DeSantis for this anti-gay. They literally have a bill saying that you cannot say the word gay in classrooms. I mean, listen, this is the height of absurdity because, one, let's not pretend. And actually, let me drill down real quick, Rebecca, before I toss it back to you. In the Black community, listen, I don't have the best record. You can read my book, God is Not a Republican. I was extremely homophobic, and I have grown and evolved from that. What bothers me about it now is looking back, I'm like, why Black folks act like we ain't got gay folks in our community, trans people in our community, LGBT queer people in our, why do we like to act like Black folks can be anything but queer?
Well, Benjamin, and I'm queer. I was the minister getting up telling people you're going to go to hell for being gay on Sunday, and I was in a man's bed on Monday. And so is cultural influence. It is our rearing. It is actually in my book, I talk about how white supremacy and the colonial and the Atlantic slave trade and colonialism disrupted indigenous love all around the world. In Native America, Africa, in Australia, in South America, they celebrated all types of love, all types of queer people, all types of folks who didn't fit the heteronormative ideal. And so colonialism uprooted that and disrupted it. And it has been a fight ever since. It is in our history books that there were gay kings, lesbian queens, and they celebrated two-spirited people. I mean, because it was natural. It is human, right? What really makes me upset is that 1 in 1,000 people are born both male and female in the world. You know how many people that is? So why are we acting like there's only male and female when people are literally born with both? And you won't know where they land, because if you don't disrupt it with surgeries and pills and hormones and all that, they will grow up to be beautiful humans, both male and female. So it's more than male and female, and that's fact.
See, now you're talking doctrine. So, please, Reverend, I don't know your title, but what sexuality is a spirit? What gender is a spirit?
None.
Rebecca, I'm done. Go ahead. You got it.
So Queen, I do have, first of all, congratulations on your success, and I certainly appreciate the insight. But here's one of the most basic questions that I've pondered. The term queer, it's often been described as offensive, and by definition, it could be described as strange. And so when I'm hearing you talk, and what my own beliefs are is in the humanity of humans, I find it interesting that you and members of the community would consider themselves strange, queer. If you could, some insight, please, my brother.
So initially, that word was used to discriminate, to hate, similar to the N-word, right? It was used to discriminate and hate.
If you don't mind, I'd like to stop you. I just like to stop you. I don't draw any similarities between the N-word and any other word.
Let me help him understand. The one thing that me and Brother Mac almost got into it over was the N-word. Yeah. So, yeah.
Okay, so if you could go ahead with it, I could get it. I don't think any comparisons with that out.
Unless you identify as a member of the LGBTQ community, you can't relate the N-word to the queer word because you're not queer. So you don't know what the word does to you, and you don't know the power.
That's right. Absolutely.
That's something.
That makes sense.
And so
that's real.
You got the floor.
Before my time, the queer was used as an offensive word. Somewhere as I was coming up, the community adopted it as our own word and began to use that to represent anything that is outside the straight, cisgendered, heteronormative. And that just means you identify with the gender that you were born with, and you are attracted and have an orientation for the opposite sex. Anything that falls outside of that has been deemed queer because there's so much that can fall outside of that. So we don't deem it strange. We just have a word that represents everything, because people get so overwhelmed with all of the letters of the LGBTQIA plus community, because there's so many ways that
right.
And so we just lumped it all with queer. If you're not and actually be straight, you can be a cisgender, right? There are literally men who like to dress up in female, feminine, identifying clothing, attire, wear makeup, but they are straight and they are cisgender. But they will be queer because they fall outside of what people consider heteronormal cisgender activity.
So basically, from my just lay understanding, if I ever use the term queer, I'm not insulting any. I mean, I'm sure I could use it in an insulting way, but it's not deemed insulting if I say the word queer in company of queer people.
Yes, absolutely.
And the reason I'm saying that, because see, I don't want no white folks thinking they can come around me and thinking they cool and go, yo, you're going to get your ass busted. To
the white meat.
I'm sorry.
To the white meat.
I forgot. My bad. My apologies. But anyway, thank you so much. But literally, thank you so much for the understanding, seriously. And
these are the type of conversations that need to be had.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Ben.
No, I was just saying, I get your correlation of what you were saying earlier of the words not being similar in that regard. And you better not come around. You get your ass busted with me.
Right. But I will say this, Ben, your explanation was incredibly insightful, and I so appreciate it. Incredibly insightful to me. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate the conversation, because what we see here are, Black people, because we're not a monolith, but having a conversation where we're letting people understand each and every parts of us. The LGBTQIA plus community, needs to be understood. And so does, and it's, you might look at a man who is cisgendered, who is considered masculine, and somebody who just really don't know and has actual questions and just want some understanding. And I'm happy that we have people like Ben and Bubba. Bubba's our DJ, Ben, who's also part of the LGBTQIA plus community. And people may look at him. We always say that people may look at Bubba and say, oh, he's gay, but he is. He's a part of it.
They look like Rick Ross, big old bouncer.
That's what they'll say. And, and people go off of those looks and just assume. But with you, going off of looks, going off of the fact that you're a pastor, you say, you're Black, you're a minister, and you're gay, the name of your book. Could you tell us a little bit about that? Because that right there is not, to a lot of people, normal.
Yes, I thought it was so important to tell my story because, as Benjamin mentioned earlier, with him being homophobic, I was very homophobic because at the very age of 4 and 5, I was taught that boys kissing boys is a no-no. And that was when I started to suppress who I really was and put on an identity, a persona, a mask that would make me acceptable to the world. And so I spent a majority of my life in hiding in DL culture and then trying to figure out, why would God make me this way if it was so wrong? And to your point earlier, Benjamin, about why Black people act like there's not gay people, I didn't know too many. The only thing I knew about the gay community, that it was perverts, freaks, and pedophiles, because that's the message that was pressed in church. And so when I finally launched into the world and launched my career with JP Morgan and Pricewaterhouse, and they had these affinity groups, and I met gay CEOs and Black gay vice presidents, and then when I co-founded BB Community, I'm traveling the world connecting with Black men across the country and meeting Black gay pastors, Black gay politicians, Malcolm Kenyatta, Chevron Jones. I mean, all of these Black people that in roles that I aspired to be, and God began to show me who I could be. I was like, why were y'all acting like gay was new? Why were y'all acting like gay just came around? Gay's been here. What is going on here? And so I preach now, you have to give people space to be ignorant, but give them the love and knowledge they need to overcome that ignorance, because I once lived in it. And it wasn't until I was introduced to a narrative, introduced to an environment and people that were not like me, that I was able to counter that narrative. It was easy for me to believe that gay people were going to hell because that's all I knew.
That's right.
Okay, so Ben, let me ask this. Let me ask this question. When did you know? And I'm asking that question from this way. From the time I was a little boy, when I seen that pretty little girl, shit happened for me, right? So at what point did you know?
I love the way you phrased that.
You got a man and shit began to happen for you. When did you know?
That's a good question.
I said, do it again.
Wait, say that again?
Wait. Hang on. I missed that. Please say that one more time for the people in the back. What'd you say?
I said, when that doctor slapped my behind, I said, do it again.
That's real though, honestly. Look, because when I came up, it was was one of those things. It was like, oh, okay. Like it was so bad in kindergarten when I was a little boy. The white girls used to kiss all on me. But the principal used to call the school and tell them, like, James is getting kissed on by all the white girls in school. We think it's a problem. I ain't want none of them. It was just something to do at the point at that time. But when I can remember when I was younger and not feeling that attraction to females. I never dwelled into it because, like Benjamin said, coming up in the black church and the black families, it was always looked on as something is wrong with you. You shouldn't be this way and anything. You shouldn't be looking at boys like that. Is totally wrong. That's all we were taught. And granted, mom and daddy weren't the type that were just like forcing it on you, but it was just society. It was society that was forcing you.
Yeah. All right, so let me ask this, gentlemen. Is that given that somewhere you knew, you have, because, for me, I've never looked at a man and got turned on. It just hadn't happened. No disrespect. I look at a sister, But to that point, but so it's so dramatic. Point, do you think that there are people who absolutely choose to experience the gay and lesbian lifestyle? Like in your case, I'm hearing it's like it was innate. Like it was just born, like you just always had this. But are there people who just absolutely choose to want to go that route, experience it?
So I'll explain it this way. We are born who we are. We are born with everything we need the day we're born. We're born with our likes. We're born with our dislikes. We're born with our innocence. We're born with all of these beautiful things. And then society comes in and says, nope, take that out. Nope, take that out. Nope, take. If we were all able to be born into a place where we could be ourselves no matter what, people would come to the understanding that they like more than just the opposite sex early on. Just like you said, no one could make you like and be attracted to another man. That is not something you just do. It is always it's life experiences that will push you in one direction or another of something that you already are. People say, oh, I don't want people saying gay in school. I don't want people watching gayness on TV. It's going to turn my child gay. If your child becomes gay watching an episode of Pose, guess what? Your child is gay. Already. Because I've watched I love the Cosbys. Don't remember any gay characters on the Cosbys. And baby, you couldn't turn me straight if you wanted to.
This is we live this morning, y'all. We are LIV.
And I know we're running towards the end of the show. This is a great conversation. I absolutely love it. But I wanted to get this in there. I remember, and what you're saying is, is honest, and you're absolutely right. But I wanted to put this in there. I remember us, being in school together at the #1 HBCU in the nation, sitting on the heights of Seven Hills in Tallahassee, Florida. As we were working at 90.5, and you were Brother Ben at the time. That was your name. And you used to be my spiritual advisor, me and Markia, shout out to Markia, our spiritual advisor up at 90.5. But we used to always I used to literally always tell her, he is gay. Like, he's gay. And I remember this vividly. And you probably don't. Conversation that was had and we were having it. And again, we were all brought up to be very homophobic. I just talked about that yesterday on the show, how me being very young, having to hold those signs up during car washes. And I thought that was very homophobic. And I just went to my trans friend's wedding on Saturday.
I didn't know you were actually holding the signs, Rebecca.
Holding up signs in the people's streets. My God, today.
Wow.
But I remember this conversation being had. We were all standing outside, us, the DJs, having some drama with the other people. But I remember us having, and you were saying something about, them gay people or something. We were all but all of us were included into it. But the conversation didn't feel right with none of us. And then I was like, Markia, that man is gay. And then I absolutely love when you finally came to a point when you came out. It blew everybody's mind though, because it was like, I guess we've all been in rooms where we were subjected to having these conversations that were actually hurtful at the time. But because of how we were brought up and you know, in the black church, and mine a black Haitian church, so it was extra, and it was like, you know, they kind of taught us how to hate people because they were gay. Yeah. Now, they focus on this one sin, and I had to get with my parents about it. They focus on this one sin, but I've been in these streets. You see what I'm saying? Loving the Lord and in these streets in so many more ways. So I know that there's so many different sins. So, you know, let he who was without sin cast the first stone. Ain't that what the Bible says? Something like that.
I ain't been to church in a long time since the pandemic.
Okay. First of all, a lot of sin is man-made. I actually just posted about it. Has nothing to do with the tenets, has nothing to do with godliness, right? Jesus said, love God and love your neighbor and you'll be all right. Literally, that's scripture.
That's
love
it.
God,
that's it.
Love your. You can hang every other law on those two scriptures. Most people don't love God. They love church. Most people don't love God. They love the appearance of perfection. And that's why you can be in church, backbiting and lying and see nothing wrong with it. But me being gay is the biggest of sins. Right. And so when you look at this whiteness, this European, when you look at what the popes did and the Catholic Church did and what they deemed sin, first of all, the word homosexual didn't get into the Bible until 1946. And they began to change words like pervert and masturbator and pedophile into homosexual. And there was a theologian at Harvard that said, if you change these words to homosexual, you will weaponize the Bible against the people. They didn't listen to him. And then they wrote back to him and said, you're right. And they didn't undo it until 1977, but by then the damage had been done.
Damn.
Right. And so people don't know the true translation of all the scriptures that come against homosexuality because no one is vested in doing the extra work. If there were scriptures that said black people are wrong and black people, you know, are going to go to hell, people will be vested in doing the work to make sure we prove those scriptures aren't true. But because those scriptures agree with something you already believe, you're not going to do the extra work, prove them wrong. And prove them wrong.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so, listen, we could take this to forever, but that we're going to have you back on the show. Ben, I love you so much. I'm happy that I had you on my show. Listen, you know, this is the results of what Florida A&M can do. For us, because people will never
Rebecca,
you. Okay, but, you know,
well,
God
look,
is good.
This is the product of what Bethune-Cookman University can do right here. Benjamin Dixon and Bubba Williams. God dang it.
It's looking
the whole morning show.
The whole morning show.
But no, seriously, thank you so much, Ben. Thank you so much, Ben, for coming on to the show. This was a great conversation. We really need to have you back. And before we get out of here, let the audience know how they can find you.
Well, first, thank y'all for having me. Thank you for this platform. Thank you for allowing me to be authentic. You can find me on the social sphere at Ben Carlton, IBENCARLTON. And you can check out my book at www.blacklovewins.com. Blacklovewins.com. And it's so important because Black love does win. They use blackness to push the Love Wins campaign and then dropped us like a bad habit after the laws got passed.
Right.
Wow.
Amen.
See, we're going to bring you back definitely for sure. Especially with all that nice kente cloth. You know, it's going to be real black next month. So be prepared. We're going to tap your shoulder to come on back to the show. Thank you, Ben. Love you so much.
Yes, thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you so much.
Great,
and we're going to have more Wildcats on the next one, man. Rebecca, DJ exclusive. Y'all know what to do, man.
All right, y'all. See you in the after party.
Always a good shout out, Ben. Thank you so much for joining us. And this song is for you, sir. Let's go. All right, y'all. Thank y'all so much again for joining us this morning. We greatly appreciate it. No, Goku, these are not artificial drums. This is a live studio recording done in 2000, I think it was. So it's 21 years old, and I was here playing. I really was. So thank y'all so much again for joining. We're about to take it over to the after party. Hopefully we will see you there, and if not, then patreon.com/like it or not. Patreon.com/like it it or not, or patreon.com/the BPD show. Make sure that you go join your ass today and come on over to the after party. Hopefully I can get a link to the after party and we'll see. But anyway, y'all, your affirmation for today. I no longer let people's opinion of me affect me. I no longer let people's opinion of me affect me. Y'all gonna be great today. Go do some amazing things. We love y'all, mean it, and we will see y'all in the morning or at the after party. See you in the view. Bye. So it looks like we'll stay in public today. Is that what I heard, Dwayne? Yay! So y'all get some more free content. Look at y'all. Y'all so lucky. Probably because David not here. He wouldn't be doing all of that stuff, ain't he?
But your words can't hurt me. No,
okay.
Can't hurt me. No, I ain't been right.
There go, good morning.
More than I've been wrong, and it still can't hurt me. No, it just can't hurt me. No. No, you just can't hurt me. No, you just can't hurt me. No, no.
These solos, I played baritone in college and tuba in high school.
Either prison or a grave, that's when everybody tell me, man, life ain't a beach, it's a female dog. I'm staying 10 toes down, though I still might fall.
I was just watching this show that came on TV called Mars, and they look like they're chronically so Mars Reese, good morning. Prairie View A&M University. So I'm just like, oh, Prairie View, but it's like maybe misband so much. All right, tenor sax. These solos, what school?
No, I ain't been right. More than I've been wrong, and it still can't hurt me. No, it just can't hurt me. No. No, you just can't hurt me. No, you just can't hurt me. No, no, no. No, you just can't hurt me. No, you just can't hurt me. No. See, it's hard to be polite. It's easy being petty. Mama used to tell me, gotta use you when you're ready. Cause I ain't working on my own timing. Ain't got no diamonds on me, but I stay shining. Yeah, yeah. They say the world would be a better place if we take out the hate. Yeah. Let's keep it real. It'd be better if we just subtract the fake. Yeah. So be a light up on my path and a lamp under my feet. I know my faith strong, but my flesh still kinda weak. When that victory be looking like the verge of defeat, and I feel like this.
Juanita, this is Sticks and Stones by Norman Sands. Sticks and Stones by Norman Sands.
But your words can't hurt me. No, you just can't hurt me. No, I ain't been right. More than I've been wrong, and it still can't hurt me. No, it just can't hurt me. No. No, you just can't hurt me. No, you just can't hurt me. No, no, no.
All right, y'all. I think we are ready to come back. Are we ready to come back? Welcome back to the screen, everybody. Ben talking, Rebecca talking, and everybody talking. I said, welcome back to the screen. Welcome back to the screen. Rebecca and Ben, Dr. Mac. No, I've been trying to get y'all back for the past hour. Oh, yeah, the music stopped already playing. It's like, I think Dwayne in the meeting. Oh, there we go.
Oh, there it is. There it is. We're back. Welcome back to the after party. Rebecca Azor, DJ exclusive. Did Dr. Mac have to get out of here?
Did Dr. Mac leave?
Okay, he had to get out.
Did he say goodbye?
He probably did, but we're in the background, so it's all
good.
He ain't saying nothing.
That's that light skin stuff. That's how light skin fuckers do anyway. They just leave.
Rebecca, that last segment was really rich. That was rich.
It's like
y'all can't hear me.
It's like something.
Can y'all hear me? Can y'all hear me?
And
now we hear you. There you go.
Y'all mother suckers! God damn it!
We didn't
know. We just kept going. You know us. We just keep going.
Yeah, we didn't.
I said Dr. Mac ain't say nothing. That's how light-skinned ninjas do. They just leave and don't go no. Just
you know
leave.
you don't like to be called no N-word. Don't play.
Just leave.
Busting heads. Let
me tell you, if there's one thing you can't say around Brother Mac, if there's one thing you cannot say around Brother Mac, it is the N-word. It's literally the only thing that comes between he and I, because I'm a prolific N-word user, and he has a hard stance against it. So.
But I love, you know what I love about Dr. Mac? You know, even though I'll be like, oh Lord, he about to rip somebody a new
Bust
one.
him to the white meat.
Right. He like, oh Lord.
Sometimes.
Oh Lord.
But he, you know, he brings a level of honesty to the conversation that a lot of people who are our viewers need that as well. An openness, a dialogue that needs to happen, because there's a division that goes on between heterosexual men and men of the queer community. And so a lot of times it feels like a heterosexual man's man can't, have a conversation without feeling like, oh, he's trying to hit on me. And it's not always that way. Sometimes there's an understanding that needs to be had. And, and a lot of the things that society has put out there isn't really what it is. I really just don't Ben. You just scared me because it just came. Ben was in a dark top and he came back with this red top. It kind of
it's salmon. It's salmon, Rebecca.
It's a salmon color.
Salmon.
It's salmon, not salmon. Y'all so black.
It's a country. We're from the South. We black and from the South. What you expect?
It's salmon.
I pronounce the L. Salmon.
I say salmon.
It's salmon.
Salmon.
But anyway, it's a great, you're right. It's a really good conversation. It was very colorful. It was very fruitful, I feel like. And I know that it may make some people uncomfortable, but whether or not you agree, whether or not you agree or disagree with the conversation, you can't lie that it wasn't something that was very informative.
That's real, and I'm glad that he was on to have that conversation, and shout out to Dr. Mac too, because he asked that question, because some people do think that queer is derogatory. I'm like, no, it's not derogatory as the F word. If you don't know what the F word is, then
we good. We
don't never
they can put it together.
Give it up to you. You can figure that out. But I saw one thing. I mean, either way it go, words don't hurt me. Sticks and stones hit my bones, but words don't hurt me. So you can call me that all you want to, and I'm going to still knock your punk ass out anyway it go. Yeah, not honey.
Listen, my favorite vice, my favorite, I love fight videos. My favorite fight videos are when gay men be stomping cis straight men who took them for granted and said,
know where he's going with this.
No, I'm just saying, like
I can't wait to see, because you give me, you and Dr. Mac sometimes have to be like,
y'all just go off the.
Me and Brother Mac are two of the guys.
I don't know where they're gonna go with it sometimes, but
Rebecca, I've been doing this for years. Rebecca, I got you. It depends on the strain, but here's the thing: when dudes be mistaken gay men for being weak and can't fight, and then those videos come. There's a whole thread on Twitter. It's got like 100,000 likes and retweets because it's just a thread of gay men just walloping straight cisgendered men who thought that because they were gay that they couldn't fight or couldn't defend themselves. So I'm just, I enjoy the conversation.
I don't like violence at all, but sometimes it does. It does have to resort to that for people to defend themselves, and because they're being treated a certain kind of way. Sometimes those people don't even want to be involved in these fights, but have to, go there because they're defending themselves. And I hate that it has to come to that for a lesson to be taught.
I've been watching
because, and you know why it happens is because these straight men, like you said, Rebecca, these straight men always thinking that we be trying to get y'all. It ain't like that. We don't want all of y'all. God damn. Damn. We don't. Every gay man don't want you. Shit. We don't. We're not looking at you. We're looking at your girl boots and what she got on. We ain't care about you. You might look okay, but we ain't gonna tell you nothing. Damn.
And it's true. Look, the way that I was getting hit on though by the gays on Saturday, but it was more so like your curls are popping. You are fly, and they're just like moving other people out the way, just like you are beautiful, like you. And then one guy sends me a DM and he's telling me, me and my boyfriend was saying how beautiful you were, and then you came and sat by me, and I was like, oh my God. And I was just like, if you're beautiful, that is honorable. And I love it. If a gay tells you you're beautiful, you better believe it, because that means
you better believe it.
You got it.
Why you think I
got
be
it
asking
going
James?
on.
I was asking James. I say, James, like all those years we hung out together, I ain't never know you were gay. You ain't never thought I was cute.
Ben, hang it up.
Ben, I ain't want you,
mentioned
Ben.
that 17 times on the show. Did you want him to think you was cute?
No, I'm just saying.
Yes.
Listen. Everybody
you're
wants
right,
to be.
because
You
it's
want
a
to be attractive.
compliment.
Everybody wants to be attractive. But at the end of the day, the thing is once you find out one of your best friends is gay, how do you react? Like that's the thing. Like a lot of people.
Or when you are told that you're handsome or beautiful.
Or if you're told that you're handsome by
this
a gay
community,
man.
you gotta believe it because you are. But with that being said, y'all, I hate to be. See, I know I like. To bring this heavy.
Now
we only got about 15 more minutes, so I have to get this in because I did promise yesterday that I would bring this in because it would be a disservice if I, who actually resembles this beautiful woman, any black woman who us in this space, okay, this beautiful woman who was no longer with us, Lauren Smith Fields, who was on a Bumble date earlier this year, was found dead in her, in her apartment. And it's for me, this story, it hurts. It hurts me because I feel like the way the story was handled wasn't good. And when I say the story, the way this case was handled wasn't good. Mm-hmm. So, again, her name is Lauren Smith Fields. She was 23 years old. She was with a white man on a Bumble date. And I know a lot of people were trying to say it was an older white man. Remember, we didn't have much information. If you first heard about this story, it was saying that she was with an older white man, as if he was some old man that she met on Bumble, like an old man, almost like how women are dating men for money kind of thing. And it really wasn't that. This man's name is Matthew LaFontaine. Well, let me not say it in that language. Matthew LaFontaine, who is 37 years old. She's 23, and 37 is older, but this is not much older. 37 is an age of somebody you may meet. She's 23. Now, people were saying that, online, she may have been dating that man to get money and it went wrong, those kind of things. And since, this case has been out, the girl's family, she filed a lawsuit against the Bridgeport police, who they say basically did the investigation incorrectly. In the police report, according to People, Smith Fields and LaFontaine were drinking tequila at her apartment when she became ill and vomited. Listen to this. The pair then reportedly continued to drink. Smith Fields then got a text and stepped outside. Smith Fields is the younger woman. She stepped outside of the apartment unit to get something from her brother. When she returned, Smith Fields reportedly went to the bathroom for several minutes. The police report added that LaFontaine later told officers that he thought it was odd, but didn't feel it was his place to say anything as he didn't know her that well, but he's in her home. LaFontaine contacted the police the next morning when he discovered blood coming out of Smith Fields' right nostril and noticed she wasn't breathing. And we can definitely take a look at more information on this case.
An update now on a story the News 4i team first told us about. We've learned the death of Lauren Smith Fields has been ruled an accident. This is according to the medical examiner in Connecticut, who says she died due to acute intoxication from the combined effects of fentanyl, other prescription drugs, and alcohol. Her family has told News 4's Sarah Wallace that the report just brings up more questions, since they say Smith Fields was healthy and had no history of drug use. Their attorney says she died after a date with an older man she met on the dating app Bumble. And now her family plans to sue Bridgeport for negligence, claiming key evidence that could have helped determine what happened wasn't submitted to the state lab. The mayor of Bridgeport is promising an internal investigation.
When the story first came out, and when I say like she looks like me, I mean that not in just the physical way, but she could be any of us black girls who are going on this date or going on these apps to find dates. When our black girls are missing, here's what's problematic. When our black girls are missing, there is nothing like in comparison to Gabrielle Petito. Remember that story not too long ago? Right. And it was all over major news networks. There was a search team immediately out there looking for her. Also a social media a person. Smith Fields is a YouTuber. A black YouTuber. And, a lot of people came to her defense saying, we need to go find her. We need to go find her. But police officers didn't see it that way. Initially, when the story came out, police officers said He seemed like a good guy. And moved on. Waited until the report came out of how she died, and they said there was heavy drugs in her system, fentanyl, different drugs in her system. And
We're gonna talk about fentanyl.
Here's the problem for me. If she has no history of drug usage, he's with her overnight, and so there is drugs that have been done at some point. Who knows if the drugs could have been in her drink, if she could have been poisoned with drugs, if he waited till she was under the influence to influence her more in getting drugs. It could have been anything, but he waited until the next morning, meaning that he stayed there with her.
That's right.
He stayed there with her.
That's right.
And if the
I'm
police
sure he did more than stay, Rebecca. I'm sure he did more than stay.
Exactly. And if the police officer, and if she was under the influence and not okay, and he did whatever with her, lets me know that's rape.
Did they, Rebecca, can I jump in there? Because did they investigate, did they search her for sexual assault or sexual intercourse? And did they have a timing for the time of death? Because if we know the time of death and there was sexual intercourse, then they could really triangulate what this man was up to while she was dying.
They waited
That's
so
why there's a
long.
lawsuit.
They waited so long, and when the investigation happened, it was just enough. They went to him, asked him a few questions. They said he seemed like a good guy, and they moved on. He seemed like a good guy because he was white. She seemed like the problem because she is black, and that is my issue. But when Gabrielle Petito, the 20-something white woman who was missing, the whole world went crazy, right? Even us, I said that she needs to be found, but there are other women that we need to find as well. And here is a story that I really want to really hone in on and focus on. This young woman has lost her life, and the first thing that came out was that she was with a sugar daddy. She done found a sugar daddy, whatever the case may be. Now, when we look at the ages, yes, he is older than her, but 37 is not an old man. 37 is not an old man. This is literally, I went on a date the other day, not the other day, y'all, but not too long ago with a man from the app. I had to pray. I had to really get my mind right, but this is the ways that we're dating nowadays. So, to me, these are excuses that people can put on, especially black people, so they can move on with the story. But we cannot fall in line with that. If we have to talk about this story every 3 days on here, every day, then we're going to do so. Because the same pressure that was put to find Gabrielle Petito's body, to find out what happened to her, to find the pieces, everything, we need that same thing to happen here. In this case, I do not think that it was like she just magically died from being on drugs. She was murdered. We have to use that word. She was murdered.
Here's a couple other things, y'all. Fentanyl is a problem. A young sister who has no history of drug use has absolutely nothing. There's no pathway for her to have accidentally overdosed from fentanyl if she is not a drug user. If she's, here's the other thing. I don't honestly care if that was her sugar daddy.
I don't care either.
Right. Does that give him an excuse to potentially have drugged her? Right? Because where does she get the... Black folks ain't going out here and just purchasing fentanyl. They're lacing our drugs with it. And if she's not a person who utilizes drugs of any kind, then where did the fentanyl come from, police officers? But he seems like a good guy.
Did y'all even track any of this stuff? Like, how long was the stuff in her system? You can tell all of that from the autopsy now. How long these drugs have been in her system and everything.
They gave it time with him, though. He just continued to live his life. And the fact that these details are continuing to come out for me, because when the details came out, it was very minute. We didn't have much on this story except for a young black girl's face, her coming from a date on Bumble with an older white man who they did not reveal his face, his pictures, nothing about him, his name, nothing. All they said was she was found dead in her apartment, and the police officer said the man reported her dead that morning, and he seemed like a good guy. That was all the information that we had for a while, until her autopsy came out and showed those drugs were in her system. Now they're dropping his picture. Now they're dropping his name. And the family has now had to say there was negligence with the police officers because they just went off of that.
Wow. I can't with this story. And one of these days we're gonna have to, here's my thing. I do watch a lot of Instagram, and I do see a lot of our young sisters who are engaged with their sugar daddies. I get it. Get your money, get your bag. I get it. I hate that we are in a position as people, women in particular, to have to give their labor to these bums who happen to have money. That's it. Just some pasty, old, white, crusty, I don't care if you're 37, but just obviously not people. I got to do a whole episode on that. I just got a problem with white folks being able to buy our black women for their pocket change, not because of the lack of integrity in those black women. Get your bag, but because of a lack of integrity in this capitalistic system that has everybody out here, damn it, broke, having to do something strange for a little change. And then our sisters end up dead. And now they don't want to investigate because the rich white man had enough money to come off as a good guy.
You know what's crazy, Ben?
Know somebody that's there in the damn police department. No, he did.
And I know somebody's in the chat saying for me to say allegedly. Now, I know that's politically correct to say allegedly, but the police officers literally said this man is a good man and made that their truth and moved forward. So when I look at black girls going missing, when I look at black girls being murdered, and the last person at the scene of the crime is still alive, has more information, and all the police went with was their truth, I'm just going to take the pieces that I have and make that my truth. This man knows, is a part of this woman not being here today.
Yeah.
And
that's right. It was. See, here's the thing. They're not even saying, they're saying it's an accident, but they're not laying the accident at the feet of the person who was there. Generally speaking, we know, Rebecca, we're not done with this story. We got something for them.
Oh, we're gonna keep it rolling.
And Roller Dragon in the chat room said he's I think it happened 30 miles away from him. So Roller Dragon, any updates or anything that you get, please make sure that you DM us as well too. And we're gonna keep this pressure on.
Yeah, because there's a lot of stories that are coming out about black people being killed by non-police officers, right? It's one thing for us to try to get justice against police officers who kill black people. That's the general state of America. We are moving into a phase, we've been in a phase where random white folks can get away with killing people and not even being arrested. I've got 3 stories like that right now. But now there's other states. There's a case in Cobb County in Georgia where a black man was killed by his neighbor and no one was arrested, even though there's testimony to the other side of it, right? Saying that he was murdered. It doesn't matter. We are going into the Kyle Rittenhouse phase of America, where these white folks with guns are running around killing people, and it's spilling over. It's all the same thing. If you could get away with killing someone, you can get away with killing someone accidentally with fentanyl. And that's what we're seeing.
So, the family has set up a GoFundMe. If you guys want to find that, Google it. It's on there. But to hire a private investigator. They are so thorough in this. They want to make sure, like, their child is not dying just because the police said that the last person that she was with was a good guy.
Right.
They want to make sure that their child gets some kind of justice.
Yeah.
This is the most scariest. It's the most scariest and it's the saddest thing. And you are right, Sarah. We'll say allegedly because we don't want to get sued. So allegedly murder. But I will say, because we ain't got the money. I don't want to be like Tasha K on here. But
this is why this is the after party. It's a whole separate show. Go ahead.
Listen,
but it's public.
but I will say that this is something that if we literally turn our heads, you guys, and not focus on it, the world will forget until there's another black woman. That's and it right. won't. And the saddest thing to say, it won't be too long until it is, because how the world treats black women, black people, period.
Dang.
Black people, period.
If we can get even sadder today, did y'all know that today was the second anniversary of Kobe dying, and his daughter, and all the people on that helicopter dying.
Wow, just in the
no, because Kobe, he's Kobe, and I mean that shook me. That when Kobe died.
I was in the middle of Walmart getting ready to go to the club. I was getting ready to go to the club.
Child, I was in the middle of. Oh wait, the pandemic hadn't started yet. That's right.
It was just.
It was like just at the beginning.
Pandemic.
Yeah, it was just the beginning. I was getting an outfit. That's what I was doing. It was early. I was getting an outfit in the morning because I knew I was going to go to work. After work, I was going to hit home and go to the club. So I was getting an outfit early. I went to Walmart to go look for some sheer stockings. Right? So I was like, this lady said, I'm like, ma'am, do you know where the sheer stockings are? She's on her phone, like in my face. I said, how rude? How rude is that? And she said, they said Kobe died. Hold on now. I said, oh, Kobe died.
Yeah.
So now I'm on the phone with her. And that shook Walmart stopped. Walmart on Cobb Parkway stopped. It hit us all.
Listen, that was the one day I almost got canceled on Twitter because I ain't give a F. People were trying to come after Kobe, and I was ripping heads off. I think I had to delete a couple tweets.
Like rapist.
I had to delete a couple tweets because I'm like, I'm not gonna do that.
They were.
Our brother died. Nah.
Yeah, they were coming real out of pocket. Of course, that shit got shut down real quick. But yeah, you're right.
It was from cases that he that he ended up winning and things like that. But here's my problem: it was coming from a white woman.
That you remember, God, we got some social media perfect memory. It was a white woman took that opportunity of Kobe Bryant's death, the day of his death, to try to grandstand.
She was like, "Let him burn." She was using these words.
Karen.
He was leading the conversation as this man's body wasn't even cold yet.
Hadn't even been recovered from the scene.
Hadn't even been recovered yet. Right.
So sad to end the show on this type of, but I will tell you guys, we're going to come with some full force, particularly on that story of the young lady and every black person who's being killed in this country without any semblance of justice. We are going to report on those, and we're going to do a lot more than report because something's going to change. Y'all ain't going to keep killing us.
No,
y'all not going to keep killing us.
No, they won't keep killing us. R.I.P. to Kim Smith Fields or Lauren Smith Fields, excuse me, is her name, and all of the people who were on that plane.
The helicopter.
Not only Kobe, his daughter.
Yeah, the whole family.
The families that were on there. Everyone that was on that plane. So rest in peace to everyone, all of you guys. I hope that we do get the justice for Miss Lauren Smith Fields. We are going to be doing that on the show. I love you guys. I hope that we didn't make it too heavy, but go and be great. Go and protect yourselves because we protecting ourselves from COVID-19.
That's right.
Love you.
Love y'all. See everybody tomorrow. Take care, everybody.
Deuces, y'all. All right, y'all. Thank y'all so much again for tuning in this morning here on the Benjamin Dixon Morning Show. Shout out Georgia Fort, Dr. Mack, Benjamin, our guest today, Benjamin Dixon as well, Rebecca Azor, Dwayne in the background as usual, y'all, David as well, and me, myself. We thank y'all so much for tuning in this morning and your extra affirmation for the day. I am in the process of becoming the best version of myself. I am in the process of becoming the best version of myself. Y'all go be great, man. Love y'all, mean it. Y'all do something special for yourselves today, all right? Love y'all. We will see y'all in the morning. Deuces.
Come on, everybody. Young, old, all you lovers. This is our time to rise back from the sand and claim our freedom. Talking about the freedom. Let yourself be free.
Yes, it's right. Start right now.
Deuces, y'all.
Get your freedom tonight.
Dwayne. Okay, y'all, I'm still here. I'm waiting for Dwayne. Dwayne, can you hear me? Help, I'm being held hostage by Dwayne. Right, Mara. Tiger right. Dwayne said, nah, bro. We here today. play another song until Dwayne comes home. Dwayne. Okay, cool. Deuces, y'all.